Chapter 990. What do you intend to do? Lin asked. Let's deal with the Hitman Guild first before anything else, Gu Qingshan replied. As planned. Lin asked. Yes, as planned, Gu Qingshan replied. Lin sighed. I really don't know what to say about you. I don't want to give up on the identity of Yi Fei Li. It'll still be useful in the future, Gu Qingshan explained. After all, when this identity has a certain amount of influence, it'll allow Zhang Yongho to quickly find him. Then go ahead, Lin said. Gu Qingshan used ground shrink to instantly disappear from the hotel and reappeared in front of the Hitman Guild a few dozen miles away. Worlds were being destroyed one after another. The shockwaves had already spread to the seaside world. Quite a few professionists had noticed this. The commotion had begun. The Bounty Guild, the slave market, the business center were all under siege. 5 minutes ago, an intense tremor came from not too far away. The auction center had been taken over. The crowd was swarming in to steal everything of value. The Hitman Guild was a relatively intimidating organization, so no one dared to cause trouble for the time being. However, as the commotion spread further, someone would notice that there was only a single girl left in the Hitman Guild. All the combatants of the Hitman Guild had died in the Fire Mountain world. Gu Qingshan appeared in front of the Hitman Guild. He knocked on the door. That's great, you're finally here. The girl opened the door and sighed in relief. This Yi Fei Li in front of her was actually the only person capable of protecting her to complete the guild's missions. And she carried the heavy responsibility of transferring all of the guild's assets and intelligence. Of course, I'm a member of the Hitman Guild, Gu Qingshan smiled and replied. At this point, a professionist came out from the commotion and hesitantly looked at Gu Qingshan. Hitman, you're still working today? He loudly called out. Gu Qingshan ignored him. The girl gritted her teeth. I'm going to teach them a lesson. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if there are too many of them. Is that so? Gu Qingshan asked. As they spoke, a few professionists had already stepped forward. They shouted at the crowd behind them. The Hitman Guild's bounty has always been very high. Everyone together. Gu Qingshan tilted her head and glanced coldly in that direction. In an instant, the group of people was wiped out, completely disappearing from the world. Such a strange scene immediately quietened the rioting crowd. One breath. Severed limbs suddenly appeared and scattered all over the ground. Blood flowed freely. I didn't see how Gu Qingshan made her move at all. The rioters could not help but retreat. The girl looked at Gu Qingshan, and her impression of the devil race suddenly improved. She cleared her throat and said solemnly, Very well. I am now in charge of issuing orders from the Hitman Guild headquarters. Order the mid-level assassin, Yi Fei Li, to protect the guild's level 1 person in charge and return to the Assassin's Guild headquarters. Got it, Gu Qingshan replied. The girl nodded, then led Gu Qingshan into the Hitman Guild and closed the door from the inside. Let's go, she said. As soon as she said so, an ear-piercing screech suddenly resounded from afar. Boom! A hole was smashed through the Hitman Guild. A masked man appeared. The masked man shouted, Hand over the Hitman Guild's treasures, and I'll spare your lives. Don't even think about it. Gu Qingshan drew her sword and charged forward. In just a few moments, she and the masked man were locked in combat. The two of them turned into blurred images, chasing and attacking each other, quickly making their way to the main street. The shockwaves from their battle destroyed quite a few large buildings around them. Hurry! Gu Qingshan shouted at the girl. The girl gritted her teeth, turned around, and ran deeper into the Hitman Guild. While running, she opened multiple secret passages, then closed them all the way until she reached a secret room at the top of the building. She lightly pressed a button on the wall. A spacious room appeared in front of her. In this room, there was a streamlined silver-tipped flying shuttle. The girl sat on it and started the shuttle. Yi Fei Li, as long as you don't die, I guarantee that the organization will treat you well, the girl sobbed. She tried her best to maintain her composure, then pressed a certain button. The ceiling of the wall opened up. The shuttle flew up, suddenly went through a black hole, and left this world. Gu Qingshan was still fighting against the masked man. This was a Lord-class battle. Anyone who got too close would be blown away by the shockwaves. If anyone dared to get too close, they would only end up dead. But at this point, None of the rioting professionists had run too far away. Most of them were still looting. But the stronger professionists quickly stopped their rampage and seriously watched the two of them fight. It wasn't easy to see a battle between experts of this level, as it would greatly benefit one's own strength. Gu Qingshan was constantly being suppressed, almost losing his life a few times. It wasn't until the girl's shuttle completely disappeared that he abruptly retreated. "You're strong enough. I'm not a match for you." Gu Qingshan wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and admitted. The masked man replied, "Scram, if your Hitman Guild gets away, I still have more choices. If you get in my way again, I'll really kill you." Gu Qingshan didn't say a word and quickly retreated. The masked man didn't chase after her. She turned around, looked at the rioting crowd, and muttered, "Money or your life, you can choose one to stay." Half an hour later. The balcony of the hotel. Gu Qingshan looked at Lin and seriously asked, "Our original plan was to escape after deceiving that girl. Why did you go and rob those thugs?" Lin casually replied, "I felt like it wasn't easy for you to earn money, so I made some money. They're not good people anyways." What? She looked straight into Gu Qingshan's eyes. "You feel like I didn't do it right?" Gu Qingshan paused. There are benefits to constantly struggling between life and death, namely, a keen sense of danger. Gu Qingshan raised her thumb and praised. "Well done. You did what I wanted to do." The corner of Lin's lips curled up, then quickly smoothed it out. She put a few cards on the table and said in a low voice, "I saw that you've been asking about card-related things recently, so I stole the cards that those people looted. See if they're suitable for you." Gu Qingshan looked at the 5 cards on the table. This time, he was truly grateful. "Although I took them, you can't expect a combatant of the bygone era, an eternal combatant, to be reasonable. Such a combatant was a combatant in itself. They wouldn't care too much about the rules of the mortal world." Gu Qingshan solemnly put the card away and bowed. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have had to spend a lot more effort. It's nothing, tell me. How do you plan to deal with Magic Dragon?" Lin asked with concern. "We should go," Gu Qingshan said. "Where to?" "The Eternal Abyss. The apocalypse of the Abyss comes from a parallel world, and I have the twin swords Heaven and Earth in hand. I can protect both of us. After I lure Magic Dragon to a place close to the apocalypse, I'll throw him into it." "You really are a bad person." "A bit of cleverness. And isn't that your goal?" "I assume that you know of a few safe paths that lead directly into the Abyss." Gu Qingshan recalled what she heard in the Abyssal prison. The Abyssal Fate Weaver had opened many paths to the primordial heaven realm, but many of them had been sealed. On one side of the path was the primordial heaven realm, and on the other side was naturally the eternal abyss. Lin's gaze fell, but her body slowly tensed up. She couldn't help but tremble. Can we really use this chance to pass through the reality gate? The time for revenge had arrived? That's right. I've opened many paths, one of which will allow us to lure Magic Dragon into the apocalypse, Lin replied. There's no time to lose. Let's act. First, show me the map. I need to expose my whereabouts. Gu Qingshan stood up and said. Lin nodded and was about to say something, but her expression suddenly changed. What's the matter? Gu Qingshan noticed her expression and asked in confusion. Lin grabbed his hand and sternly told him, We need to run. Some terrifying ones are coming. The two of them flew out together. Lin tore open the void of space with a wave of her hand and brought Gu Qingshan with her. At the very last moment, Gu Qingshan saw an extremely strange scene. The entire seaside world was being split in half by different lights. Half of it was night. The ground was filled with corpses and ruins without a single living creature. The darkness slowly spread towards the other half of the world that was still in daylight. As soon as any living being was enveloped by the darkness, they would turn into corpses on the spot, unable to resist at all. In the world that was still in daylight, everyone was panicking and running away from the darkness. The corrosion of the parallel world's apocalypse had broken through the abyss and was slowly devouring this world. Chapter 991. We need to run. Something terrifying is coming. After saying so, Lin brought Gu Qingshan and broke through the void of space to escape from the seaside world. As they left, Gu Shan saw the desolate scene of the apocalypse spreading across the entire world. All living beings that were enveloped by it couldn't help but accept the fate of the parallel world: death. The entire world welcomed the predetermined fate of being destroyed. The parallel world slowly eroded the seaside world until the entire world became desolate. No, at the very last corner of the world, on a certain secluded island, a few seabirds were still alive. The sweeping death had stopped here. This was an unforeseeable coincidence. The parallel world and its apocalypse were fighting against each other, coincidentally spreading to this place and stopping here. Both the parallel world and its apocalypse were powerless to move forward. Thud! A figure heavily fell onto the beach of the island. The abyssal magic dragon. His body was covered in wounds and blood as he lay on the ground, breathing heavily. Ah, I finally escaped the apocalypse, the magic dragon laughed in joy. That's right, I can't deny it. I almost died as well, a voice replied. But this place is still not safe. Who knows when this calamity will spread again? I have to leave quickly, the abyssal magic dragon muttered. That's right, I can't deny it. We have to leave immediately. After all, this calamity has spread so many times already, I really don't know when it will end, the voice complained. The abyssal demon dragon abruptly came to his senses, looked around, and shouted, "Who's trying to be mysterious here? Show yourself." "Shoo, shoo," the voice hurriedly replied. "Don't wake the little one, otherwise both you and I will be in deep trouble." As the abyssal magic dragon was about to say something else, he found that his mouth couldn't even open. As a powerful abyssal monster, I can't even open my mouth. What kind of ability is this? The abyssal magic dragon appeared fearful. Ever since he fell into the abyss, no mystical power had ever been able to affect him. The voice whispered, "Are you afraid?" "That's right, who wouldn't?" "You're afraid of me, and I'm afraid of this calamity that will destroy my home. But I'm also afraid that the 900 million world layers won't be as comfortable as my home. So you should just follow me and be a good guide." A long finger appeared out of thin air and gently pressed down on Magic Dragon's body. It stuck onto him and sank into the void, immediately disappearing. Silence returned to the island. The other side, Lin brought Gu Shan forward through the endless void of space. "What exactly is the terrifying guy you're talking about?" Gu Shan asked. "I can only faintly sense it. It should be a monster at the same level as the Soul Shrieker's main body," Lin replied. Gu Shan was speechless. A single avatar was able to break through the 900 million world layers if it was a main body monster. He shook his head. Seeing Lin's anxious expression, he asked, "Is the abyss a world where the strong prey on the weak?" Unexpectedly, Lin gave a negative answer. "That's not the case at all. Other than corrupted ones like me and Magic Dragon, the original monsters of the abyss are basically devoid of logic and rationality. They each have their own way of doing things, like lunatics." "Yes, but they all believe that their way of doing things is correct." Seeing Gu Shan's confused expression, Lin explained further. "For example, the Soul Shrieker believes that the twin swords Heaven and Earth are important abyssal soul artifacts that will influence the future, so it hid it from the majority of the abyssal monsters and secretly sent an avatar to the primordial heaven realm, spending a lot of time and effort to forge these two soul artifacts. However, its main body never participated in this. Instead, it had fallen into slumber. You have no idea what it's thinking." Gu Shan nodded thoughtfully. "If it's a completely unpredictable monster, there's no conventional way to deal with it." Suddenly, Lin's expression relaxed. Gu Shan looked at her and asked, "Is it safe now?" Lin's gaze was focused on the void of space, still carefully sensing something. "It didn't chase after us," she slowly said. "Seems like its target wasn't us. It just happened to be alerted by the apocalypse of a parallel world and had no choice but to escape from the abyss." Gu Shan also sighed in relief. Right after that, he realized the urgency of the situation. "I can't care about that much right now. I can't follow the normal rules anymore. I need to become stronger as much as I can." "Let's stop for a bit," Gu Shan said. Lin stood still in the space vortex and looked at him. Gu Shan took out Lin's 5 cards. The cards that were put up for auction were all decent combat cards, but right now, Gu Shan didn't want to use them at all. He needed to use a unique method to become stronger. As soon as he took out these cards, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI, frowny face, discovered cards that can be consumed. Are you sure you want to consume these cards to increase your envoy of condemnation level? Gu Shan replied, yes. All the text on the War God UI disappeared, replaced by a new line of text frowny face. These cards are too weak. You need a powerful card as your main card in order to increase your envoy of condemnation level. Without hesitation, Gu Shan took out a card. There was a monster on the card that was as tall as a mountain. It had vertical pupils and a pair of gray wings. Behind this monster was an uncountable sea of monsters. The monsters wielded weapons in their hands, forming a military formation that gave off intense killing intent. Bloodsea card. Bloodsea God Army. Sushare had once used this card to replace the Predictor of Fate card from his King of Fate deck. As soon as he took out this card, the War God UI gave him a notification frowny face. By using this card as your main card, you can complete this card's advancement. Gu Shan sighed. Now I have to use this card. Seemingly sensing Gu Shan's will, Bloodsea God Army looked at Gu Shan from the card. Do you want to give up on your covenant with the Bloodsea? If that's the case, I have no objections, Bloodsea God Army replied. There's no other way. I have to use this card, Gu Shan replied. Bloodsea God Army replied. Everything will be as you wish, but you must understand that your covenant with the Bloodsea will end here. I understand, Gu Shan replied. That's good, Bloodsea God Army nodded. Gu Shan put this card and the other 5 cards into the War God UI and shouted, consume. A total of 6 cards disappeared in an instant. Lines of text appeared on the War God UI, frowny face, currently consuming. Lapis grade card. Sword Cultivator Gu Shan, currently evolving towards Azure grade. Please wait patiently. Gu Shan looked back, only to see that his card had already been flipped over, unable to see what was on it. But the color on the back of the card was slowly changing. The lapis color faded. The azure runes slowly manifested. This was most likely a process, so aside from waiting, there was nothing else she could do. Gu Shan pulled her gaze back and asked, where are we going now? Lin casually replied, we're lost. The space vortex is constantly being eroded by the abyss, so we can't tell where we are. Gu Shan thought briefly. It's not as simple as just being lost. At this point, no one can find the coordinates of the strife zones, and Meow can't come here either. Even though I have my homeworld's beacon, I can't directly go through the strife zones to return. But to return, I have to go through the strife zones. The only way to do so is to follow the Earth Creator's arrangements and take the path on the star chart to return. But the next world on the star chart is Riddle World. After I kill the pixies, I won't be able to reach Riddle World. This really is... Oh well, rather than randomly entering a random world, I might as well. Gu Shan tapped her inventory bag and took out a bunch of items of various shapes and sizes. He hesitated, picking and choosing among these things. What are these things? Lin curiously asked. Gu Shan picked them up one by one and explained, this dagger is the Shadow Fiend Realm's warp artifact. The flame emblem next to it is the Flame Eater Fiend Realm's warp formation. Also, look at this bone. It can take us to White Bone Devil King's world. As for that elephant tusk, it's the pass to an Azura world. Lin couldn't help but ask. These were all given to you by the Fiend Kings and Devil Kings when you killed the 2 million demon eyes during the Wind Tribulation? That's right. Everyone felt that I was willing to take out a business deal worth 2 million souls, was nice to listen to, and was a reliable person, so they were willing to make more friends. After that, they introduced me to a lot of business partners, for example, nice people like Whitebone Devil King. Gu Shan replied. Lin chuckled. Then choose a world. We need to quickly leave the space vortex. There are more and more strange things in the space vortex now, most likely seeking refuge in the 900 million world layers. As Gu Shan looked at the items in her hand, she suddenly recalled something. He picked up a certain emblem. This emblem depicted a large tree with hundreds of cards hanging from its branches, all of them glowing in various colors. It looks like a card-type world. That's quite rare, right? Haven't you been looking for cards lately? Lin asked. That's right, I almost forgot about this thing. Looking at the emblem, Gu Shan recalled what the couple told her before they parted. Take this. It contains the coordinates of our world and the space vortex. If you ever come to my empire, you can use this emblem to find me directly. Indeed, this was the travel emblem that Hayes Din and Soft Note gave him. Gu Shan put everything else away and only took this emblem. He began to try to activate the power of the emblem. Go to a card world? That's fine. After all, worlds with card inheritances are extremely rare, Lin said with interest. Right now, we can only pray that this world isn't blocked by the strife zones, Gu Shan replied. As he infused more power into the emblem, it began to vibrate, then abruptly leapt into the air and opened a space vortex. The emblem hovered in the air and began to ring, seemingly urging Gu Shan. Success, let's go. Chapter 992. While Gu Shan was traveling through the space vortex, the strife zones, the Holy Church of Fate, Su Cher was standing at the center of the main hall, silently looking up at the starry sky. No one knew what she was thinking. Two worshippers hurriedly ran in and reported, Cardinal Su, the divine light on the statue has disappeared. Following that, 5 cardinals and a few dozen knights of the Holy Church came in. One of the cardinals shouted, Su Cher, it's all because of your uncompromising actions that angered God, causing our Holy Church of Fate to lose God's attention. Su Cher didn't turn around, nor did she say anything. The cardinals exchanged glances, then looked around. None of the other worshippers were in the main hall. They felt even more assured. Su Cher, you should hand over your position as the acting Holy Church leader. You've made too many mistakes. The believers are very disappointed in you, another cardinal said. Su Cher slowly turned around. She appeared to be a bit more dignified than before, but more of her beautiful face was filled with innocence, diluting the dignified aura. You old bastard, Su Cher muttered. The Holy Church leader didn't want to kill you out of consideration for the past, so you really took advantage of the Holy Church leader's slumber to cause trouble. How laughable. We only wanted to escape. Escape, do you understand? One of the cardinals shouted in a frenzy. Su Cher coldly replied, You can leave, but you shouldn't have come to cause trouble for me. She made a gesture. Squads of holy knights appeared out of nowhere and quickly filled the entire Holy Church. They all rushed forward, surrounding the cardinals and the knights. One of the cardinals shouted, Su Cher, don't you dare. You've angered God. Su Cher cut him off. The 7 holy churches have all lost God's attention. No one in the strife zones can contact God. Do you really think I could do something like that? The cardinal froze. Su Cher shook her head and muttered, Ignorant fool. She made a gesture. The massacre began. One by one, the rebels were beheaded. Their warm bodies fell to the ground, blood flowing everywhere. Su Cher looked at this scene indifferently. Her eyes were calm and even a little bored. Only when all the rebels were killed did she speak indifferently. The main hall must be kept clean. Yes, the clergyman answered. Su Cher turned around, no longer paying attention to what was going on behind her. But in the next moment, the indifference on her face was broken. What is this feeling? Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed together. A blood-colored book appeared in her hand and automatically flipped to a certain page. On the 7th to last page, among the long list of names, one name had disappeared. Su Cher's heart tightened. She hurriedly walked out of the hall. Bishop Su, are you leaving now? A high-ranking clergyman asked in confusion. I'll make some preparations. I'll be right back. Su Cher nodded at him. She disappeared from the hall, returned to her room, took out a card, and muttered, Blood sea filled with endless mysteries. I seek your changes. Please tell me everything, as she chanted the incantation. A special card appeared in her hand. Su Cher tapped the card. An angry voice came from the card. The voice of the Blood Sea God Army. Su Cher, the person you recommended, had dispelled the covenant. Because he needed to consume that card in order to evolve his power. Hearing that, Su Cher fell into thought for a few seconds. What kind of power would be able to consume even a covenant card like the Blood Sea God Army? Gu Shan might have become far more powerful than I am. That's great. She smirked and asked, Your Excellency, do you know where he is? No, I'm not sure. Space and direction are chaotic. I can't sense it, the Bloodsea God Army replied. Is he in the strife zones? I'm not sure. Su Shui'er sighed and could only dismiss the card. Now that I've received some good news, I need to try my best. She opened the door and walked out. 2 rows of nuns were waiting outside, but as they saw her, they quickly knelt down. Su Shui'er didn't say anything. At some point, she was already wearing a suit of armor. She quickly walked forward, walked past the countless knights and mages who were ready to go, and walked up the platform. Looking down at the countless soldiers below, Su Shui'er coldly declared, "Let's go." Gu Qingshan and Lin were flying through an oval-shaped tunnel of light. An invisible force manifested from thin air, guiding the 2 of them towards a certain direction. This is a space tunnel that has already been opened. As long as we enter it, we'll be in a relatively safe environment. We only need to follow this force, Lin explained to Gu Qingshan. But isn't this tunnel a bit too long? Gu Qingshan smiled bitterly. The 2 of them had been flying for about a day and a half. The speed of the tunnel is extremely fast. We've already passed through many folded spaces. I think we're about to reach the mystic zones, Lin said. Gu Qingshan doubtfully asked, "How did you know?" Lin explained, "From the basic direction, the strife zones and the fallen zones are quite close, while the mystic zones are above them. From our flight, just now, we clearly haven't passed through the strife zones, so we're probably approaching the mystic zones." Gu Qingshan showed a look of interest. The mystic zones. This was a miraculous place. The Bramblebird Kingdom was here. The cultivators who hid in the samsara from the age of old were also here. Could it be the Card Kingdom is also in the mystic zones? Gu Qingshan muttered. While they were talking, a monster suddenly appeared in front of them. This monster wasn't particularly large. It had legs about 2 meters long, a short upper body, 6 bony claws, and a skeleton-like head. What made Gu Qingshan wary was that this monster was wearing a full suit of armor. Since it had defensive equipment, it must be a sentient being that came from a certain civilization. The presence it gave off was very strange, fluctuating between high and low, indistinct and indistinct. The monster also saw the 2 of them. When the monster was about to do something, Lin had already acted first. Lin raised her arm and threw a heavy punch from afar. Bam! With a resounding sound of impact, the monster's entire body was broken and scattered in the tunnel, quickly blown away by the wind of the void. An enemy? Gu Qingshan asked. Not really, just a seeker. Saying so, Lin's expression was a bit pale. What exactly is this monster? Gu Qingshan pursued. Lin paused for a bit, then slowly explained, I'm not sure if you can understand if I explain it like this. In the Abyss, there are some particularly large entities that can reach the size of an entire galaxy. We usually call them abyssal behemoths. Their strength is basically immeasurable. Most likely, they only need to focus their thoughts on you to kill you. You mean as long as they think about me, I'll die? That's right, right, Gu Qingshan nodded. Although I've never seen such a terrifying entity before, I can roughly imagine it, Lin continued. Such a great and gigantic entity actually has a lot of living beings that depend on it, seeking its protection, serving it, helping it with various tasks. For example, grooming its body, guiding its prey, cleaning up its surroundings, reporting information, etc. In short, there are countless living beings that depend on that gigantic entity. To survive, Gu Qingshan thought briefly, then nodded again. I understand what you're trying to say, Lin continued. Very well. What I want to say is the little monster we met just now, according to your cultivator standards, is about 2 realms lower than you. That's Void Wanderer realm. According to the standard of the 900 million world layers, it's the first Lord-class realm, Gu Qingshan explained. Lindy continued to speak. It came from a civilization that was born by relying on the surface of a certain abyssal behemoth. To put it simply, it was a louse on that abyssal behemoth's body. The 2 of them didn't have time to continue. In front of them, a faint light appeared at the end of the space tunnel. We're almost there, Lin cautiously said. She couldn't help but take a stance. With a single thought from Gu Qingshan, the 4 swords also appeared behind her. If it's the kind of abyssal behemoth you mentioned, will we be able to do this? Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice. It's useless. But I'm not going to give up before I die, Lin replied. Even if you came from the abyss, they won't let you go. Humans still kill each other, what do you think? Gu Qingshan sighed. The difference in strength is too great. It's like comparing a god to an ant. Lin noticed his emotions and consoled him. Don't worry, true abyssal behemoths won't focus their consciousness on you, because you're not even a speck of dust in front of them. Thank you. But saying that doesn't make me feel any better. The tunnel began to narrow. The gravitational pull on their bodies gradually became stronger, almost as if they were about to arrive. Sometimes I wonder why I'm not an abyssal monster. If that was the case, my strength wouldn't have improved so slowly, Gu Qingshan sighed. Hearing that, Lin smiled inexplicably. She muttered, There's only a single reason why you would think that. What reason? Gu Qingshan asked. The abyss is observing you. Before she finished, the light in front of them abruptly manifested into a screen of light. The two of them went straight through the screen and appeared 10,000 meters above the ground. They had arrived at the Sky Haze Kingdom's world. So, this is the card world you mentioned? Lin looked around and asked. Gu Qingshan caught the badge that led them here and confirmed, That's right, but the people have changed below them. The ground was full of holes. The entire world had collapsed into countless pieces, silently floating in the endless void. The world had been destroyed. Chapter 993. Gu Qingshan released her inner sight to scan the entire broken world. Collapsed buildings, scattered corpses, broken cards scattered all over the ground, as well as the still-burning flames. All of them told the story of this world's misfortune. The sky no longer existed. Deep within the darkness of space, countless monsters were flying back and forth, seemingly searching for the situation around this world. The monsters were searching for more worlds to erode. Although Gu Qingshan and Lin appeared in the sky, Gu Qingshan was wearing the silent dusk cloak, while Lin had carefully concealed her presence, so they didn't draw the attention of these monsters. Gu Qingshan landed on the ground, put her hand on one of the corpses, and silently sensed it. The corpse hadn't become completely cold. Its armor had clearly been shattered by the force of impact. It seems a great war had taken place in this world, Lin commented. Yes, it's the lice you mentioned. Gu Qingshan pointed in a certain direction. A few long-legged, six-clawed, skeleton-headed monsters' corpses were lying on the ground. These were the monsters that had been killed in the war. Gu Qingshan waved her hand to the ground and took a broken card into her hand. The corresponding notification popped up on the War God UI, Frowny Face Transformation Type card. Flame Elemental Giant. This card has been completely destroyed, unable to be used. Gu Qingshan sighed, regretfully. They aren't really lice. Don't underestimate them. In truth, they already have their own civilization, and they aren't any weaker than the 900 million world layers, Lin told her. Gu Qingshan's gaze was attracted by the badge in her hand. The guiding badge of this world seemed to have sensed something and was vibrating. All of a sudden, the badge jumped into the air and spoke, Frowny Face, attention, friends of Sky Haze Empire. We have retreated to the Mystic Zones. We have retreated to the Mystic Zones. If you want to find us, please come to the Mystic Zones. After saying that, the badge lost its power and fell back into Gu Qingshan's hand. Gu Qingshan sighed and put away the badge. He could tell that it was the master of the Sky Haze Empire, Hazeden's voice. It seemed that they were still alive, but they couldn't resist the enemy, so they had no choice but to retreat. What do we do now? Head to the Mystic Zones? Lin asked. There's no hurry. Gu Qingshan released her inner sight to scan the ground. He carefully observed the battlefield. After a while, he clasped his hands together and formed a seal. Object Guiding Chant. This was the most basic technique. Cultivators could comprehend at the moment they entered the Qi condensation realm. It was usually used to teleport objects. However, when Gu Qingshan, who was at the 3,000 Worlds realm, used this technique, the effect was much stronger. On the vast land, the scattered broken cards all floated up and quickly flew towards Gu Qingshan's direction. There were so many of them that Gu Qingshan had no choice but to gather them neatly, piling them up in the air into a giant spherical object made entirely of cards. Lin looked up at the sky. The monsters seemed to have noticed the commotion caused by Gu Qing-shan. She then looked at the cards and said, "These cards were all damaged during the war. They can't be used anymore." "I know," Gu Qing-shan replied. "Then why did you collect these broken things?" "They'll be useful later." Gu Qing-shan waved her hand through the void of space. The innumerable cards all disappeared and were put into his inventory bag. Gu Qing-shan then took out the colorful rooster. War God's communication function was attached to this colorful rooster, so he still valued the rooster a lot. It had been over a day since the last time she received a message, so it was time to receive a new one. Gu Qing-shan pulled on the rooster's comb. The colorful rooster came to life. "Hey, we're both men. Can't you be a little more respectful?" The rooster raised its wings to tidy up its comb and complained. "I'm sorry. I'll be more careful next time. Now, please sell me some information," Gu Qing-shan said. "Have you prepared the soul points?" the rooster asked. "Same as last time. All right, leave it to me." The rooster raised its head and began to sense the void of space. A few moments later, it told Gu Qing-shan, "I have good news and bad news, but according to the rules, I can only tell you one. Which one do you want to hear?" "You really can't listen to both?" "I'll give you a bit more soul points," Gu Qing-shan replied. "That won't do. Although I also want a bit more soul points. I'll break down if I break the rules," the rooster regretfully said. "All right, I'll listen to the good news," Gu Qing-shan said. "Wait." Lin stopped him and asked, "Why don't you listen to the bad news?" "Only by knowing the bad news will we be able to prepare ahead of time." She gestured for Gu Qing-shan to look above. Deep in the sky, groups of monsters were gathering. They had discovered the two people on the ground. Gu Qing-shan looked up, then shrugged helplessly. "The parallel world apocalypse is spreading. The power of the abyss is pouring into the entire 900 million world layers. There's too much bad news at this point in time. There's nothing we can do to prepare for such a terrible situation." "That's true," Lin thought for a bit and slowly nodded. The first group of monsters responsible for scouting had already descended from the sky, silently approaching the two of them. Lin slightly bent her knees, clenched her fist, and abruptly threw a punch at the sky. Dong, 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 dong. From several dozen miles away, the entire group of monsters was smashed to pieces by this single punch. The monsters were turned into meat paste, caught by the wind of the punch, and sent flying back into the sky. Gu Qing-shan glanced over and continued to explain, "But the good news is different. Perhaps from a certain point of view, it will be able to provide us with a bit of guidance," Lin pondered. The colorful rooster flapped its wings and praised, "What a clever brat. I'm starting to have faith in the long-term benefits of soul points. Here's your soul points." Gu Qing-shan infused soul points into the rooster's body. "Oh ho ho, how comfortable, how comfortable." The rooster happily squinted its eyes. Gu Qing-shan thought of something. From the looks of it, the rooster seems to be powered by soul points. "Then, please tell me about the good news you receive," he said. The colorful rooster cleared its throat and said, "Buddy, your reinforcements are about to arrive." "Reinforcements?" "Indeed. Within the 900 million world layers, a person with unparalleled wealth is currently using various strange and unusual treasures to search for your whereabouts. She has already discovered your whereabouts and is quickly heading here. So if you want to meet up with her, don't move again. It's fortunate that we received this news. Otherwise, we might have already left." Gu Qing-shan spoke in relief. The rooster winked at him, then turned back into a statue and stopped moving. Gu Qing-shan put the colorful rooster away. "Who is it?" Lin asked. "Didn't you read my mind? Why couldn't you guess?" Gu Qing-shan smiled, clearly in a good mood. Indeed, if there was anyone who could be described as unparalleled wealth within the 900 million world layers, it would definitely be her. The one who awakened the three mystical abilities of Shelter of Infinite Worlds, Vagrant Treasure Collector, and Blessing of the Queen, Queen Thorns, during her coming of age ceremony. Lola. She had been searching for Gu Qing-shan without giving up. Lin carefully thought about it and replied, "I did, but you've never thought of such a person. It's a little girl. For a period of time, we shared a lot of hardships, so you could say she's my younger sister," Gu Qing-shan said a bit sheepishly. Lin crossed her arms and slowly asked, "Then we're going to wait here?" "That's right. We need to meet up with her to make sure she doesn't keep chasing after us. The world is too chaotic right now. It wouldn't be good if she ran into monsters that were too powerful, Gu Qingshan replied. Lin nodded in agreement. The two of them looked up at the sky. A large number of monsters were rushing down towards them. They filled the sky, screaming in anger because of Lin's attack, seemingly ready to take revenge for the previous squad. You need to be careful. I can see a few that aren't any weaker than you are. Be careful. Don't let yourself get careless, Lin told him in a low voice. Gu Qingshan also noticed a few powerful monsters. Some of them were even close to reaching Paragon Realm, already stronger than the current him. No wonder Lin reminded him to be careful. Sometimes strength isn't important, and victory isn't entirely determined by strength, Gu Qingshan slowly told him. Then what are we looking at? Lin asked with interest. At this point, the monsters were all rushing down. Gu Qingshan silently formed a sword seal. A simple and unadorned long sword appeared at his side. The Earth Sword. The Earth Sword leapt into the sky and faced the horde of monsters head-on. Secret Art, Torrent. Overwhelming sword chi swept through the sky like a rampaging dragon, sweeping away everything in its path. Against the Earth Sword that had the abilities of Earth's Choice and Sanctuary, none of the monsters were a match for it. Look at my equipment, Gu Qingshan said. All of a sudden, he felt a strange sensation in his mind, sensing that a certain spell was descending on him. This sensation, could it be the Empress blessing? Gu Qingshan muttered. Lin also sensed it. She looked at Gu Qingshan in surprise, only to see a glowing emerald leaf drifting with the wind, landing in front of Gu Qingshan and opening a path. Following that, a glowing armor manifested out of thin air. The armor quickly broke apart into its components and quickly attached itself to Gu Qingshan's body. Gu Qingshan's body suddenly exuded a sense of solemnity and holiness, as if she was a true deity under the holy light. The Bramble Bird Emperor's armor. She's here. Chapter 994. Lin, wouldn't killing these lice draw the attention of the abyssal behemoths? Gu Qingshan asked. You don't need to think too highly of yourself, Lin told her. I understand. I'm actually nothing more than a speck of dust. Gu Qingshan smiled self-deprecatingly. That's right, Lin agreed. That's why I can fight as I please, saying so. Gu Qingshan took off the hood of the Silent Dust cloak. This way, the Bramble Bird Sovereign armor was made of pure light, while the cloak looked like a black cloak that silently draped over his shoulders. Darkness and light, cloak and armor, it made Gu Qingshan look like a divine emissary. This armor is quite nice, Lin observed him and commented. The Bramble Bird Sovereign armor had the 3 defensive thaumaturgies, elemental elimination, invulnerability, and God's order, making it the strongest armor Gu Qingshan had ever seen. It was because of this that this ancient armor was worthy of Lin's praise. I'm going to try it out, Gu Qingshan said. He drew an autumn water-like sword from the void of space, leapt up, and flew into the sky. Without any hesitation, Gu Qingshan charged into the horde of monsters. Intense sword phantoms illuminated the night sky. Lin looked up, only to see that Gu Qingshan was rampaging through the horde of monsters, occasionally getting hit by a few of them, but completely unharmed. But whenever he swung his sword, the monsters would scream in agony. A rain of blood rained down from the sky. Gu Qingshan still didn't relax, caught the earth sword that came flying towards him from afar, and attacked with both swords. One sword to break all laws, one sword to destroy all things. The wielder of both swords was a sword cultivator who wore the Bramble Bird Sovereign armor and didn't need to defend himself. Even if he ran into stronger monsters, he couldn't do anything against Gu Qingshan's swords. In front of Gu Qingshan's eyes, lines of soul points were constantly refreshing. Soul power was the real currency. Gu Qingshan didn't hold back. She flew and weaved through the crowd of monsters, sometimes suddenly appearing and disappearing. He killed the monsters with all his might, sweeping away everything in his way. After watching for a while, Lin couldn't help but mutter, sure enough, equipment is also a huge factor that decides the outcome of a battle. I really didn't think about this before. She simply found a place to sit down and quietly watched Gu Shan kill the monsters as if they were vegetables. Finally, Gu Shan's massacre alarmed the strongest of the monsters. It was a long-legged skeleton that was stronger than all the other monsters. Its body was even bigger than the 5 monsters combined. It poked its head out from the depths of the sky, then quietly fell into the crowd of monsters, hiding behind Gu Shan for dozens of miles. As the monster approached Gu Shan suddenly descended from the sky and landed in front of Lin. Oi, that monster is around Yama King realm. I can't win against it, so I'll have to rely on you, Gu Shan said. I can only throw a few punches right now. I can't make any large movements, or my wounds will be torn open again, Lin scowled and said. Gu Shan thought for a second and walked in front of her. What do you want? Lin asked. Punch me with all your strength, Gu Shan gestured. You're crazy. That's a good idea. Lin sat still, clenched her fist, and punched Gu Shan with all her strength. The sound of explosions resounded from the void of space around her arm, showing just how terrifying this punch was. If this punch connected, Gu Shan would most likely not be able to survive. But Gu Shan stood still without moving or dodging. As for Lin, she didn't hesitate at all. As the punch was about to strike Gu Shan's chest, Gu Shan suddenly disappeared. In her place was the Yama King, or Realm Monster. Divine Skill, Shadow Shift. Roar? The monster stared blankly at Lin, unable to understand what was going on. It had already received Lin's full-powered punch. Bam! A heavy resounding sound reverberated in all directions. The monster's entire body was smashed into meat paste by this punch, scattering everywhere until it couldn't be seen anymore. A single punch. A single punch was enough to kill a Yama King Realm Monster. Lin pulled her hand back, her expression calm, without changing at all. She looked up at the sky. Gu Shan was still going on a killing spree. Not a single monster could stop his sword. If that's the case, I don't need to do anything myself. Lin silently thought so. Right as she was about to find a place to sit down and be a spectator, Gu Shan descended from the sky like a meteor, landing in front of her. What's the matter? Lin hurriedly asked. Help me hold him off for a bit. My cultivation suddenly reached a bottleneck. I need a bit of time, Gu Shan told her. Lines of glowing text kept appearing on his retina. Card. Sword Cultivator Gu Shan. About to enter Azure Grade. Please note, you must immediately make adjustments to your existing cards. Otherwise, this advancement will fail. If the advancement fails, you will not be able to attempt another advancement for the next 60 days. Would you like to begin adjusting your cards now? Attention! During the process of adjusting your cards, you must be in a meditative state. Even the Bloodsea God Army card had been used up. If this advancement fails, I'll have to wait for 60 days. If that's the case, Gu Shan really couldn't think of anything else. Gu Shan clasped her fist. This is a very crucial point in my cultivation. If there's really no other way, please help me hold them off for a bit. That's the only way. Cultivators like you are always more troublesome than others, Lin helplessly replied. Ha! Thank you. Saying so, Gu Shan sat down cross-legged and focused all of her attention on adjusting her cards. On the War God UI, the Lapis cards he obtained were displayed at the center of the UI. Rare item, True Crimson Demon Spear. Skill card, Bleed. Black Smog Armor, full set, unusable. Gu Shan's gaze fell onto the Black Smog Armor. This card was actually drawn for him by the Demon King order. Aside from defense, it also had the ability to conceal himself, so it had always been very useful. Interestingly enough, after Gu Shan separated from the Demon King order, this card became completely unusable. Seems like the Demon King order doesn't want to make a losing deal. Gu Shan silently thought. At this point, the War God UI displayed the description of the card adjustment. From Emerald to Azure, your ability will receive a huge boost. Therefore, you must give up on all of your cards, leaving only one for it to evolve into an Azure Blue card. Once you obtain the first Azure card, Sword Cultivator Gu Shan's advancement will be complete. Please select the only card you wish to keep. Reading through it, Gu Shan sighed in relief. And here I thought it would be difficult, so it was nothing more than this. Without hesitation, he focused his attention on rare item, true Crimson Demon Spear. I want this card to advance, Gu Qingshan said. Are you sure? I'm sure. The other cards on the War God UI disappeared. They turned into sprites of light that were absorbed into the rare item, true Crimson Demon Spear. Rare item, true Crimson Demon Spear began to change. The red glow on the front of the card became less blinding and slowly shrank back to the surface of the spear. The red glow became thicker and darker, coiling around the spear in strands. The color of the card slowly turned from bright red to a deep red, as if to symbolize the change in some sort of power. Lines of glowing text appeared next to the card. Frowny face, your card. True Crimson Demon Spear has completed its advancement. Rare item, True Crimson Demon Spear. From now on, equipping this Demon Spear will no longer affect your ability to wear armor. This Demon Spear has the law property, absolute sharpness. Description: this was the first weapon created by the old gods to harm themselves. Unstoppable. Gu Qingshan was glad. The biggest problem with the true Crimson Demon Spear was that it couldn't be used while wearing armor. But that problem has disappeared. This spear's combat value is rapidly increasing. Perhaps I should find a few spear techniques to learn. After all, this is an unstoppable spear. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, her own card on the War God UI had flipped over and turned into an azure color. Lines of notification popped up. You now have an azure card, True Crimson Demon Spear. Your Envoy of Condemnation has been promoted to azure grade. You may now learn a new card ability. Card assembly. All of a sudden, the content on the War God UI disappeared. A girl in a white dress appeared on the UI. Little Dusk. She looked at Gu Qingshan and giggled. Hey, this is the image I left inside the condemnation deck. If I ever find a companion, I will use this image to help him understand the technique of card assembly. Because of that, if you can see this image, you must be my only companion. Little Dusk clasped her hands together and happily said, I'm going to teach you how to card assembly now. She continued to draw cards from the void of space until she had drawn a total of 12 cards in her hand. These cards were displayed in front of Gu Qingshan one by one. First of all, you must understand that the elements that create a world are earth, water, fire, and wind. Little Dusk began to explain. Then, when we card assembly, we must have 4 cards as a base. These 4 cards must respectively contain the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. After that, you must understand your own heart and use the cards according to your preferences and characteristics to create a world. Most importantly, you must understand what exactly you are creating a world for. Saying so, Little Dusk quickly placed the cards in the void of space in front of her and began to assemble them one by one. You must be fast when assembling the cards. You must consider the compatibility of each card, whether or not they conflict with each other, whether or not they can fuse together, whether or not they can produce a miraculous reaction. This is a process that requires a lot of trial and error. While she was explaining, she had finished assembling the 12 cards. Look, this is a small world that I've assembled. Little Dusk showed Gu Qingshan her results as if she was showing them off. It was a world of a sea of flowers. Little Dusk's body lightly moved and entered the world of flowers. She held a flower in her hand. She looked at Gu Qingshan. How is it? Isn't it miraculous? So many flowers. It took me a lot of effort. She ran back and forth among the flowers, happily laughing as she went away. The image slowly faded away. Gu Qingshan silently sighed. Indeed, Little Dusk really liked flowers. After the divine race found out about this, they immediately sealed her away. Because they felt that she had regained her emotions, they were afraid that she would regain her memories from the bygone era. If that happened, their false identity as divinities would immediately be exposed. Little Dusk, where exactly is she right now? Gu Qingshan fell silent. I'm her only companion, so I have to save her. At this point, the War God UI returned to normal. Lines of glowing text appeared again. Frowny face, you've learned the basic method of assembling cards. Please use your identity as an envoy of condemnation to assemble a small world. According to known information, this is the only way for you to improve your strength. Gu Shan quickly skimmed through it. Indeed, the giant corpse had said that I need to find an object that contains the laws of the inner plane, seal them into a card, then assemble a miniature inner plane to face my tribulation again. That would be a normal measure tribulation. But finding an object that contains the laws of the inner plane would definitely be a long and arduous process. It would definitely take a lot of effort, incalculable wealth, and a lot of time. Fortunately, I've collected over 10,000 broken cards from the Sky Haze Empire, so I might be able to find some by using the Heaven Sword to restore them. I hope so. While Gu Shan was upgrading his card, Lin replaced him and began to kill the monsters. She rolled up her sleeves, raised both of her slender white hands, pressed all of her fingers on her thumbs, and flicked them towards the sky. CSI. The air was cut apart. With just a flick of her fingers, the horde of monsters in the sky was knocked down one after another. The monsters weren't fools. Seeing that the enemy who had been biding their time for so long suddenly unleashed such power, they hurriedly ran away. Following that, the truly powerful ones arrived. Several dozen of the monsters that Lin killed with a single punch appeared at once. They formed an orderly squad, led by a monster that was even more powerful than them, and charged towards Lin. Against such power, the heavily wounded Lin couldn't stand still any longer. Lin couldn't help but turn around to look at Gu Shan. Gu Shan still had her eyes closed, still in meditation. Tisich, seems like I won't be able to fully recover for now, Lin regretfully said. She held her breath and formed a defensive stance in front of Gu Shan, protecting him. All of a sudden, a leaf that gave off a bright green glow appeared. As soon as the leaf appeared, Lin noticed it. She recognized this leaf. It was this leaf that gave Gu Shan his armor. Gu Shan himself had told her that this was an allied technique. Lin ignored the green leaves and maintained her defensive stance, silently watching the monsters fly over from the depths of the sky. But as the green leaf floated in front of her, it suddenly turned into a palm-sized space tunnel. A transparent bottle that gave off a green glow flew out and stopped in front of Lin. What followed was a sentence. "Big sis, you seem to be wounded. This is the best healing medicine in the 900 million world layers. Please drink it." Lin looked at the bottle that contained the green medicine and fell into a brief daze. "The Pixie royal family's spring of eternal youth," she muttered, took the bottle, and opened it. In a split second, a refreshing fragrance came from the bottle, which was blown away by the wind and quickly filled the surroundings. Patches of green grass began to grow on the ground. Small saplings could be seen crawling out from the ground at a visible speed, growing as they pleased. Spring water and streams appeared. Earthworms, beetles, grasshoppers, all sorts of tiny life forms were born. Sure enough, this is the real spring of eternal youth. The value of this bottle is... Lin didn't hesitate any longer, tilted her head back, and drank all of the spring water in the bottle. Keek. Lin's joints began to crackle. Following that, the paleness on her face completely disappeared, replaced by a hint of red. Puffed. Lin spat out a mouthful of black blood. This was the blood that had accumulated in her body, being expelled by her recovered organs. Another green leaf flew over, forming another void passage. The little girl's voice sounded again. "Big sis, I still have to travel through a few worlds to reach here. Please protect Big Brother for now." Following her voice, a full set of golden armor and a pair of gauntlets that occasionally gave off the faint image of a fire elemental spirit appeared in front of Lin. Lin looked at the golden armor, then at the pair of gauntlets, momentarily speechless. She could only sigh. At this point, she finally understood what the rooster meant when he said, "There is unparalleled wealth in the 900 million world layers." Chapter 995. Lin reached her hand out and lightly touched the suit of armor. The entire suit of armor scattered into its components and attached itself to her body. Lin then put on the pair of crimson gauntlets. She casually clenched her fists. An intense flame manifested from the gauntlets and quickly enveloped her entire body. How interesting. Elemental gauntlets are truly rare. Lin moved a bit and slowly spoke. Within the flames, her presence was continuously rising. The Spring of Eternal Youth was an extremely rare healing artifact, able to heal all of her wounds in an extremely short amount of time. At this point, Lynn's state had returned to her peak state when she was still human. When she was heavily wounded and could only move her fists, Lynn was able to kill a Yama King realm monster with a single punch. Then, after regaining her full strength, just how powerful would she be? Lynn didn't take up a stance and simply stood there, shielding Gu Qing behind herself. She looked up at the approaching monsters and muttered, "Flames represent destruction. I remember elemental fist techniques have been lost for a long time." She clenched her fist and threw it towards the sky from a distance of several dozen miles away. An unbelievable scene occurred. From afar, one could only see a bright comet of flames shooting towards the sky, burning away all the clouds in its path as it flew towards the outside of this world. The monsters that were charging towards Lin and Gu Qingshan were instantly burned to ash as soon as they saw the flames. Wherever the comet of flames passed, space itself would shatter and everything would be destroyed. The monsters that were hiding in outer space were all devoured by the flames. The blinding and bright flames quickly left this world, causing everyone to feel as if the world had suddenly darkened. The sky began to fall. Everything was burned to ash. The space itself also collapsed. Elemental fist techniques are so useless. I can't even control my strength properly. I really am. Lin softly complained to herself. The world became silent. She silently stood there with a lonely expression as she looked up at the slowly manifesting space vortex in the sky. All of a sudden, the faint image of a giant tree manifested in this world. Leaves that gave off a bright green glow drifted down and gathered together to form a cave that gave off surging green light. The giant tree phantom only existed for a breath of time before slowly disappearing. All the green leaves scattered in all directions. When all the leaves fell, an elegant little girl in a long dress appeared in front of Lin. The little girl had a pair of intelligent and delicate eyes, a sharp chin, and a simple ponytail. She did not have any accessories on her. She looked very plain and very young, but there was a dignified air about her. The little girl smiled sweetly and said, "Hello, big sister. I'm Lola." "Hello, I'm Lin." Lin bowed to Lola and solemnly spoke. "The spring water you gave me has completely restored my health. Thank you very much." Lola looked at the other party's sincere expression and nodded inwardly. This woman was far more powerful than any living beings of the 900 million world layers, almost on par with the abyssal monsters. But she was so clear about her grudges, not taking everything for granted just because she was stronger. No wonder she could get together with her brother. In other words, Lola thought of something and asked, "Sister, are you my brother's lover?" "What's a lover?" Lin doubtfully asked. "In layman's terms, it's a girlfriend or a wife." "Ah, no. I'm his older sister. We're both dependent on each other, traveling the 900 million world layers in search of our lost family regardless." Lin still followed the script that she and Gu Qingshan had discussed before. Lola's expression didn't change, but she was silently surprised. "That can't be right. My brother is an orphan just like me. Seems like this girl is hiding something from me. But I used a unique artifact to observe the battle just now, so I'm sure that this girl has been protecting my brother. She's always been with my brother. All right, maybe she has her own difficulties, or maybe this is what she decided to say after discussing it with my brother. It's necessary to be cautious of strangers you're meeting for the first time. This is understandable. There's no need for me to get to the bottom of this, as long as there's no problem with her attitude toward my brother." With that in mind, Lola nodded. "Then you're my older sister." She took out a small backpack from somewhere, looked down, and began to look inside. "This is a greeting gift for big sis Gu Qingshan. It can't be too embarrassing." Seeing how serious she was looking, Lin silently chuckled. "It was because my body was wounded and I needed to fight that I accepted the other party's water and equipment. In truth, I've always been a simple person who doesn't care about wealth. In my long life, what I pursued is martial arts, justice, and vengeance. So if the other party wanted to give me something else, I'd better refuse." The most important thing in life is the pursuit of the soul. As for material things, I don't need too much. This has always been my attitude, Lin calmly thought. At this point, Lola's surprised voice came. I got it. She took out a mirror and placed it in front of Lin. Big sis, this is the mirror world. Did you say world? Yes, this world isn't that big. Only 5 million square kilometers in size. It's all Gold Coast. This place is managed by the top 5 gourmets, 7 hairstylists, 15 jewelry designers, 24 scientists, and 36 fashion designers of the 900 million world layers. This entire world is filled with the most fashionable and trendiest clothes, bags, jewelry, and other things. When you're not busy, you can even enjoy afternoon tea or sunbathe. You can call these experts to help you with anything you need, but why are there also scientists? Lin couldn't help but ask. Lola replied, because professionals need professionals to do it. For example, the coolest supercar, the most eye-catching space shuttle, the most relaxing genetic-grade massage equipment, or even the most popular technological communicator, they'll give you the best advice and arrange everything for you. Lin. Lola pushed the mirror next to Lin and begged. This world isn't worth much, but it's filled with things that girls use. I feel like it'll definitely be of use to Big Sis. This is also a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it, Big Sis. You really are a cute little girl, Lin replied. She put the mirror into her personal space. Lin thought for a bit, then said, This is our first meeting. I don't have anything to give little sis, but you can accept this. She drew a glowing rune in the void of space, then held it in her hand and placed it in Lola's palm. Big sis, what is this? Lola asked in surprise. The glowing rune disappeared as soon as it fell into her hand. If this rune was in danger, the bramble great tree would immediately appear to protect her. But from start to finish, the bramble great tree remained silent. This is one of my fist techniques. When you're in danger, it will automatically activate and protect you, Lin explained. Lola sincerely bowed to thank her. Thank you, big sis. Don't be ridiculous. This woman is unimaginably powerful. And now that the apocalypse is approaching, being able to receive her protection for once is definitely a benefit that anyone could only dream of. All of a sudden, their expressions changed at the same time. They turned to look behind them, only to see that Gu Qingshan had woken up and was smiling at them. Gu Qingshan! Lola screamed and leapt forward. Gu Qingshan caught Lola, stroked her head, and smiled. How have you been? Ugh, not good at all. What's the matter? Being an empress is too hard. Tell me, what's the problem? Every day, countless worlds want to establish relations with my kingdom, but I'm too lazy to deal with them. Yet they still shamelessly insist on establishing relations with me. How annoying, aha! It'll be fine once you get used to it, Gu Qingshan smiled. Gu Qingshan, I had no choice but to come find you, because the apocalypse of the infinite worlds is coming. I need someone to fight with me, Lola told her. How's the current situation in the 900 million world layers? Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask. It's terrible. Powerful abyssal monsters are currently invading the 900 million world layers. Other than a few unique entities, there's nothing that can stop them, Lola replied. How's the Bramblebird Kingdom? We're currently deep inside the mystic zones, surrounded by the great bramble tree and various dangerous natural barriers, as well as the unending abyss of broken worlds. Any enemy would have to be careful. The unending abyss of broken worlds? Ah, I remember now. The Bramble Bird King's armor was found by your previous king in the unending abyss of broken worlds using the shelter of infinite worlds. Indeed, so the Bramble Bird Kingdom is still safe for now, but I've been able to see even more terrifying abyssal monsters through various means, and they're also heading toward the 900 million world layers. If all of those monsters arrive, the Bramblebird Kingdom will also be in danger. Lola's petite expression became serious as she solemnly asked, Gu Qingshan, I'm now officially requesting to fight alongside you. Are you willing? Seeing her expression, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but chuckle. There must be a lot of worlds that want to fight alongside our Empress Lola. Seeing how casual he was, Lola couldn't help but lose her confidence and muttered, I'm not going to fight alongside them. They're either panicking or pretending to be calm, or they can't think of a solution at all. I get angry just looking at them. She and Gu Shan had gone through a crisis of life and death together, witnessing with her own eyes how Gu Shan defeated the 2 million demonized and forced the Demon King Order to retreat. And now Lola's standards weren't just a little bit high. Are you sure you want to fight alongside me? I really miss that feeling. I feel like if I were to fight until the very last moment without any regrets, it would be with you. Very well, Your Majesty. It would be my honor. When Laura heard this, she immediately jumped up in joy. Noticing her loss of composure, she cleared her throat and raised her chin. Humph, it took me a long time to find you. This is also the reason why I, as the Empress, seek out talents like thirsty. That's right, the proof that I seek out talents like you. Gu Shan and Lin exchanged glances. Both of them smiled. Lola carried a natural aura that could make anyone who got close to her feel a sense of security. She was natural and unpretentious, clearly mischievous, but also paid a lot of attention to manners and etiquette, making others want to get closer to her. All right, we need to do something now, Gu Shan said. What is it? Lola asked. Gu Shan took out the Bramble Bird Kingdom's Duke emblem. Can I announce you as the Bramble Bird Kingdom's Duke now? Lola excitedly asked. Not me, HM. You need to announce to the 900 million world layers that Yi Fei Li has become the Bramble Bird Kingdom's Duke. Yi Fei Li. Yes, this is a secret signal that will summon an important comrade of mine. Got it. Chapter 996. Lola agreed to Gu Shan's request without hesitation. An outsider duke of the Bramble Bird Kingdom. This must be a big deal, but who exactly is Yi Fei Li? Lola asked. Another friend of mine, Gu Shan replied. Lola realized. That's right, you're currently wanted by the 7 demons, so it's not convenient for you to show yourself. Using a friend's name to attract another friend to meet you is indeed a good idea. That's right, that's the only way I can find him, then, to avoid having the same name. Is there any way to verify Yi Fei Li's identity? Lola asked. Gu Shan couldn't help but fall into thought. That's right, every layer of the 900 million world layers has tens of thousands of worlds. The name Yi Fei Li might have countless people with the same name. Gu Shan thought for a bit and slowly smiled. Let's introduce him like this. A human male from a scattered world. His first time in the 900 million world layers. His name is Yi Fei Li. He then formed a hand seal and used spirit energy to manifest Yi Fei Li's image. Look, this is what he looks like. So that's what he looks like, how young and inexperienced. All right, I'll tell Ilya and the others. Lola took out a bright green leaf and wrote a long message on it. After reading through it, she tossed the leaf into the air. The leaf circled a few times in the air before disappearing. All right, in a few hours, the entire 900 million world layers will know that the Bramble Bird Kingdom has appointed a duke with real authority. Just wait to see the shocked faces of the infinite worlds. Lola smirked triumphantly. At this point, something seemed to be moving in the sky. The 3 of them looked up. A giant fish was slowly gliding across the sky, gliding across this world. Gu Shan and Lola were only surprised because they've never seen such a giant fish before. But Lin was tense. Conceal your presence. This guy is very powerful. From the looks of it, it's currently in a hungry state. Although we're insignificant, it's still best to be careful, Lin whispered. Gu Shan immediately cast a breath-concealing art. Lin didn't move, but her aura gradually became indiscernible, as if she didn't exist at all. Lola took out a flower umbrella and opened it above her head. She pulled both Gu Shan and Lin under the umbrella. It's okay. You can talk now, Lola said. Gu Shan and Lin both sensed it. It was as if his aura had completely disappeared. This was truly marvelous. What kind of treasure is this? Gu Shan looked at the umbrella in her hand and asked. Lola giggled and said, Guess. I don't remember you having such an aura-concealing treasure, but the number of treasures you have is uncountable. How could I guess? Gu Shan replied. Lin looked at the umbrella and judged. This seems to be the manifestation of some sort of power. Big Sis is truly knowledgeable, Lola said. This is the manifestation of my ability from before. After my coming-of-age ceremony, my ability continued to grow until it manifested into this flower umbrella. Gu Shan was a bit surprised. I understand now. This is Shelter of Infinite Worlds, he said. That's right, Lola nodded. Shelter of Infinite Worlds was a powerful mystical power that Lola had grasped since she was young, capable of making it so that no one could detect Lola's existence. During Tree's assassination attempt, even if the entire Abul Holiday Inn was locked down and all the guards conducted a thorough search, they still couldn't find Lola. It was because of this that Gu Shan met Lola, who was hiding in the royal green room. After her coming-of-age ceremony, this ability of Lola's finally matured and could manifest to protect others. The three of them silently stared at the big fish swimming across the sky. Big sis, you seem to recognize this fish just now. Lola asked. That's right, it's a wanderer of the abyss. It hunts for food through its presence, Lin replied. Lola looked at Lin. Actually, I'm also from the abyss, Lin casually said. From the abyss? Lola's eyes were filled with fear as she hurriedly looked at Gu Shan. She's one of us, there's nothing wrong with her, but she suffered a lot in the abyss, endured it for so many years by herself, and finally returned, Gu Shan explained. Ah, Lola sighed in relief. She had absolute trust in Gu Shan. If Gu Shan said so, then that must be the case. Looking at Lin, she couldn't help but think of herself in the past. At the time when her parents and brother were assassinated, she was hiding in the royal green room by herself. What kind of despair and misery was that? At the time, if Gu Shan didn't show up, what would have happened to me? Lola suddenly felt that this powerful woman in front of her was a bit pitiful. Hold this for me. Lola gave the umbrella to Gu Shan, turned around, and hugged Lin. It's okay, big sis. The past is the past, she consoled her in a low voice. Lin froze. From now on, with me and Big Bro here, we'll help you with anything you need, Lola continued. Lin's gaze turned to Gu Shan. Gu Shan quickly nodded with a resolute attitude. Big sis, don't think about the painful things anymore. It's good enough that you're back, Lola said. Lin couldn't hold it in anymore, tried her best to control her pouting lips, and quickly turned her head away. She wiped her cheeks with her hand. Gu Shan looked at the two girls, one big and one small, and silently sighed. Lola was a person with a tough life. From Lin's reaction, she most likely had a lot of painful memories as well. However, no matter if they were brave or cowardly, heroic or tragic, no one could survive in this era of the apocalypse. At every moment, someone would leave, never to return. This was the fate of all living beings within the apocalypse. Gu Shan went silent for a while, then couldn't help but shake her head. Damn the apocalypse. Who can stop this apocalypse? I really want to get rid of this apocalypse. One day later, outside the 900 million world layers, Gu Shan's homeworld. Just a while ago, the eternal abyss tidal tide erupted. Even the communication channels to the 900 million world layers were cut off. But you still want to find him? Meow asked. Yes. Yi Fei tidied up her luggage and said, the Tower of Infinite Worlds must be guarded by Boss Bali. Big Sis Meow must also help seal away the presence of the abyss, as well as take care of the wounded in this world to prevent the abyssal tide from continuing its invasion. None of you can leave this world, so I'm the only one left to find him. Wait, Bali cut her off. I'll tell you again. We're separated from Gu Shan by the fallen zones that are about to be destroyed, as well as the completely hidden strife zones. There's also the Soul Shrieker and the Demon King Order that are constantly fighting each other, as well as the 7 holy churches under the control of the Abyssal Magic Dragon, as well as the countless terrifying monsters that have escaped from the Eternal Abyss. The situation is basically one of no return. Even knowing all of this, you still want to find him? Yes, Yi Fei answered without hesitation. Why? Bali asked. Without him, I would have already fallen into a monster that only knows how to kill, unable to save my mother, unable to avenge my girlfriend, after donning her leather armor. Yi Fei continued. As for me, aside from writing a few online game guides, I don't have any special talents. It wasn't easy for me to clear the entire Tower of Infinite Worlds and gain a bit of power, so I definitely want to fight alongside him. Bali and Meow exchanged glances. Very well. That's what a man should be like. Yifei Li, you make me proud, Bali said. Meow pulled on Yifei Li's back and said, the void string I gave you this time, although it can only be used once, it's more than enough to pull a group of people back to the club. Yifei Li solemnly bowed to the two of them. Thank you, Boss Bali and Big Sis Meow, for your guidance and care. I'll be going now. Bali patted his shoulder. Don't force yourself. If you can't do it, just return to the club. As long as you're alive, you'll always have a chance to find Gu Shan. All right, Big Sis Meow, I'll be troubling you. Yifei Li nodded heavily. Meow reached her hand out and pushed him. In an instant, Yifei Li disappeared from this world. Where did you send him? Bali asked. A borderline world of the strife zones. He could try to find his way forward from there, but it's hard to say how far he'll be able to go, Meow replied. It's actually very hard to find Gu Shan, isn't it? Bali asked. That's right, it's very hard, Meow replied. But he insisted on going, that's why he was recognized by you, big bro. Let him go. Those worlds are dangerous, but they're also a form of training. Anyone who wants to become a true combatant must go and train themselves. Big bro, please don't speak with such an impassioned tone while worrying so much that you can't even relax your brows. When we first came out to train, at least we could take care of each other. But that brat Yifei Li is too naive, and he's alone. Barley and Kitty glanced at each other, both a bit worried. All of a sudden, their hollow brains lit up. Boss Bali, Lady Meow, an abyssal current is approaching from outside the world. Please divert it, otherwise the world will be corrupted. Got it. I'll be right there. The brother and sister had no choice but to return to the mission of protecting their homeworld. Yifei Li appeared in a lively world. This was a famous underground trading world. Looking at the grotesquely shaped employees who were barely able to take human form, he felt a bit more anxious. This was the first time he had left his homeworld, and the first time he went on an adventure. Let's begin. Yifei Li took a deep breath and walked towards an intelligence trading center. On the way, he kept seeing people with ill intentions staring at him. They didn't seem to have bad intentions, but they were just a little too enthusiastic. What happened? Did everyone notice that I'm a newcomer? I don't have any valuable treasures. Bali and Meow only taught me a bit of the language. They didn't even give me any money, saying that the club can just charge me anywhere, so there won't be any issues. So why are these people looking at me? Yifei Li muttered in his mind and walked even faster. A large number of professionists followed behind him until he reached a famous trading center. The owner of the trading center was already waiting for Yifei Li at the door. Esteemed sir, do you require any services? Yes, I want to ask for some information and a ship. It is our honor to have you visit our trading center. Please come in. Very well. Yifei Li followed the owner of the trading center inside. At this point, the surrounding professionists couldn't hold themselves back anymore. Someone loudly called out, Sir, are you not Yifei Li? The Yifei Li from a scattered world? Yifei Li turned around to look at that person in confusion and replied, That's me. How do you know me? Boom! The entire street erupted into a huge commotion. Oh my God, it's him. It really is him. That is K, the Bramble Bird Kingdom's new unimaginable wealth. But who would dare to touch a single hair of his? Tree's fate. It's so. Quickly think of a way. See if we can please him. Everyone was talking at once. This scene was completely out of Yifei Li's expectations. I don't know a single one of them, but they all seem to know me. What exactly is going on? So strange. He couldn't help but mutter to himself. The owner of the trading center bowed and showed a flattering smile. Mr. No, I should call you Sir Duke. You are a very interesting person who wouldn't know you in the 900 million world layers right now. Yifei Li froze. What? What's going on? Chapter 997. A wooden sailboat was traveling through the space vortex. Because the boat wasn't particularly large and was made entirely from the branches of the great bramble tree, the entire sailboat was equipped with a powerful camouflage ability. Even if it ran into any monsters in the space vortex, they would only mistake it for a tree branch that was blown by the wind. Lin pulled Lola into the cabin to talk, so Gu Shan was the only one left on the deck. On the ground in front of him were 36 cards. As soon as she heard that Gu Shan needed cards, Lola took out all of her treasure collections for him to choose from. During the battle against the Demon King Order, even the Lord of Blood couldn't move when he saw the cards that Lola gave him. So it was easy to imagine how precious these 36 cards that Lola gave Gu Shan were. Gu Shan randomly picked up a card. This card depicted a thievish-looking gnome with a large bag on his back. A line of glowing text appeared below the card, frowny face, unique card, treasure gnome. Description: unleash this card at night. It will grant you unimaginable gains. Special note: after obtaining this card, you will need to maintain your image as an honorable person, as well as be able to provide an alibi at any time. Gu Shan picked up this card and glanced at the void of space in front of him. Lines of glowing text appeared on it. Please use the method Little Dust taught you to create a world of your own. Hint: you already have a temporary ocular technique world. If you use this as a foundation to fuse the cards into a world, the difficulty of creating a world will be greatly reduced. It will be easier for you to create an extremely powerful world. Reading through these notifications, Gu Shan asked, if I fuse them, what form will the card world I create take? The War God system replied, it will take the form of your iris sword. Furthermore, 20 soul points will be given to you. Gu Shan understood a bit. The Fairy of Time also said something similar about the iris sword and cards. It seemed that this matter was accurate. Gu Shan put down the treasure gnome card and looked at the other cards. Minus 36 cards, all unique cards. A world built with such a style must be unprecedented. But there was an important prerequisite. If he wanted to transcend the tribulation in the world where he was collecting cards, he would need to use cards from the inner world. If he really couldn't find them, he would have to look for things that contain the inner world's laws and seal them into cards. Gu Shan's gaze swept across the 36 cards, and her heart calmed down a little. Fortunately, Lola was here, so this problem was solved. He didn't have to worry about too many things anymore. He only had to think about the next final problem. What kind of world do I need? In a battle, it was enough for him to wholeheartedly use his swordsmanship. There were also powerful lightning divine abilities and 2 space-type movement techniques. The Eye of the Sword art was actually an attempt before he reached the phenomenal success stage of a sword immortal, allowing him to control 1,200 flying swords, trying to retract all the power into a single strike. However, this attempt hadn't even progressed too far when the thaumaturgy Eye of the Sword was already formed. Gu Shan had a premonition that the cultivation of swordsmanship would require a long period of tempering before he could advance to the next level. Then, what kind of world do I need right now? This world needs to help me transcend my tribulation, as well as be useful in future battles. Gu Shan pondered this. He sat there, completely immersed in his own world, so much so that Lola and Lin didn't notice him at all. Lola wanted to call out to him, but Lin stopped her. Lin shook her head at Lola and pulled her back into the cabin of the ship. He's in a wondrous state. Perhaps he already has a general idea. So don't interrupt him, Lin explained. Ah, so that's what it is. I was just about to go to an auction house to pick something for bro, Lola muttered. Hearing that, Lin couldn't help but facepalm. You still need to go to an auction house to buy something? Lola replied with a serious expression. Big sis, you don't know this, but I usually like to collect rare treasures, but I've never really dabbled in cultivator items, so there's nothing suitable for bro to use. She suddenly stopped and raised her 2 small eyebrows. I think I told Ilya about something related, but I can't remember, Lola muttered, then took out a green leaf and tossed it into the air. The leaf turned into a cluster of light that reflected Ilya's appearance. From the looks of it, she seemed to be taking care of something in the royal palace. Your Majesty, were you looking for me? Ilya asked in surprise. Lola hesitated and asked doubtfully. Right. I remember telling you about a cultivation-type treasure before. Is that true? Ilya quickly replied. That is true. When we returned from a bowl last time, you told me to collect a few cultivation-type treasures. Lola patted her chest in relief. Seems like I didn't remember wrongly. How many treasures did you collect? Your Majesty, when we took inventory of the Bramble Bird Kingdom's 9,745 treasure vault worlds, you even took a look at them yourself. Did you already forget? Ilya asked. Lola blushed a bit and forced a reply. There's so many worlds, I don't have the time to look at them one by one. Ilya, just tell me all right. Let me take a look. Ilya took out a thick book and flipped it open. I found them, Your Majesty. According to our records, the 8,564th to 8,691st worlds are all cultivation-type treasures, she reported. All right, I got it. Prepare yourself. We'll be going to pick out something after we return. Yes, don't worry, Your Majesty. Lola nodded and waved her hand to recall the green leaf. She turned around and happily looked at Lynn, saying, Big sis, thank you for reminding us. Otherwise, I really would have dragged you all to the auction house. That would have been such a waste of time, Lynn. While they were talking, Gu Qingshan was still sitting on the deck of the ship, carefully thinking about the construction of the card world while muttering to herself. Swordsmanship, both real and fake, iris technique, world creation, cards, combine the two to form a world with both real and fake. He suddenly picked up a card. This card depicted a nine-headed lizard made entirely of frost. Unique card. Nine-headed Mons, ancient envoy of frost. Description: using this card will awaken an ancient world-destroying monster from the world of eternal frost, a nine-headed envoy of frost to fight for you. Description: this ancient monster has existed for countless years, but has never befriended any living beings. Only once, to repay someone's kindness, did it send out this summoning card. Gu Qingshan glanced at the card. Frost was a form of the water elemental. According to Little Dusk, it could also be used to construct a world. He then picked out 3 more cards. Unique card, Grand Lord of Flames. Unique card, Elemental Prince of the Wind. Unique card, Guardian of the Vientiane Forest. -4 summoning unique cards, combining earth, water, fire, and wind. Gu Qingshan's hands turned into blurred images as she quickly put the 4 cards together. Instantly, a strange sound of resonance resounded from Gu Qingshan's hands. The shape of a world was about to be formed. At this point, the Grand Lord of Flames suddenly roared. Who exactly is it that dares to use our power to construct a world? The 4 legendary monsters on the cards sensed something and turned to look at Gu Qingshan. Let the wind tell me what exactly he is. The wind, Elemental Prince muttered. He lightly pointed at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's body was instantly surrounded by an azure rectangular frame filled with complicated runes. Azure card, Sword Cultivator Gu Qingshan. At this point, Gu Qingshan had turned into a card. The 4 monsters spoke at once. So, it's the origin of all cards, the envoy of condemnation of all living beings. They turn around and regain their calm. Ho! The 4 cards vanished into thin air, turning into 4 clusters of flickering light that silently hovered in the air. The first step of world construction was completed. Gu Qingshan wasn't affected by what just happened at all and picked up another card from the ground. Unique card, True Sight. Description: this is a card of laws that can turn an illusory world into reality. Known as the ultimate card of alchemy in the legends, origin unknown. Unique card, Embrace of the Weave. Description: this is the most powerful card of all spatial transformations. As long as you have a certain catalyst, you will be able to pull the target into a certain world. It is said that this card was created from a place that the surface world couldn't reach. Unique card, Observer of Illusions. Description: by activating this card, you'll be able to enter any illusory location, observing and sensing what is happening within. No one in history had ever successfully created a sub-card of this card. Unique card, Mind Creation. Description: by activating this card, you will be able to create an illusory world, but everything within it contains a complete law. Description: a card that once caused a sensation, but soon disappeared from the public sight. Its whereabouts unknown. Unique card, Illusory Dreamscape. Description: this is a card of laws that can turn reality into an illusory world. Origin unknown. Indeed. Among the 36 cards, Gu Qingshan only picked out these cards whose origins couldn't be investigated. The reason why they were so powerful and unique, as well as the reason why their origins couldn't be investigated, was because they originated from the inner plane. In other words, these cards were the cards that Gu Qingshan was looking for. Chapter 998. Looking at the cards in front of him, Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He separated the cards that represented earth, water, fire, and wind and arranged them neatly in a row with the inner plane cards. He then closed his eyes and began to meditate. A few moments later, when Gu Qingshan felt that his condition had been adjusted to its peak, he put his hands out and began to assemble the cards. First, earth, water, fire, and wind formed the basic world. He put the 4 cards together in a few moves. The 4 cards are for you as well. In front of him, he created the outline of a world filled with light. Gu Qingshan picked up a card and assembled it. This was the unique card called Mind Creation. This card would allow Gu Qingshan to create a different world according to his own thoughts. After that, Gu Qingshan took out another 2 cards. Next, he needed to make the world capable of changing between illusion and reality, so he needed to assemble Illusory Dreamscape and Eye of Truth. When these 2 cards were put together, all kinds of images began to appear in the world that was emitting a faint glow. The world's illusion and reality had been established. Gu Qingshan picked up another card, Observer of Illusion. This card would allow me to observe others, as well as allow others to feel the illusion and reality that I created. Once everything can be seen and felt, I would be able to pull others into my world or travel with them. If that's the case, I would also need to add Embrace of the Mananet. Gu Qingshan quickly assembled these cards together. Under his guidance, all the cards were in perfect harmony with each other, gradually forming a picture of the world. The suspended world. Gu Qingshan looked at the suspended world and focused his thoughts. The world abruptly changed and turned back into a bowl. Gu Qingshan focused his thoughts again. Following his thoughts, the world once again turned into barren cloud heavenly palace. Very successful. Gu Qingshan sighed. A world created entirely from unique cards was most likely extremely rare even within the 900 million world layers. And now, he could proceed to the final step. The last step. Gu Qingshan held her breath as she stared at the world of light formed by the cards. Under his gaze, the entire world suddenly disappeared. A line of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face, you use cards from the inner plane to create a world. You fuse this world with your iris sword, creating a complete world with the laws of the inner plane. Your sword pupil has changed. You've created a completely new world technique. Please name it. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, isn't there a description of this pupil technique? A line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. You created this ability yourself. Don't you know? Gu Qingshan honestly answered, the ability to combine and combine cards has infinite possibilities. I really don't know what kind of ability this is. Another line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. God knows what kind of ability you've created. I've never seen such a world creation art. You can't expect me to be familiar with a skill that has never appeared before. Gu Qingshan fell silent. This was clearly a world creation art created using the identity of an envoy of condemnation. The card from the inner plane as the foundation of the laws, combined with my true soul, slaying eyes. Although I can clearly see the entire process, I still can't understand what kind of ability I've created. Even the war god UI doesn't know what it is. Hey, can't you at least give me a hint? Gu Qingshan complained. The war god UI displayed another line of glowing text. Frowny face, you need to try to understand and grasp this ability yourself. Also, you need to give this world technique a name. I want to preserve it. After this line of text appeared, no matter how many times Gu Qingshan asked, the war god UI couldn't be bothered to answer him. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but sigh and muttered, if I don't even know what this ability is, how can I give a name? He took out a pill, put it in his mouth, then closed his eyes to meditate. When he escaped from the measure tribulation, he used the heaven sword to return his cultivation to 3,000 worlds realm early stage. Now, I need to quickly make up for it. Following that, Gu Qingshan focused all of his efforts on breaking through. By dinner time, he had just barely reached 3,000 Worlds realm middle stage. After all, he had already broken through once, so he was very familiar with the process. All he needed to do was continue to increase his spirit energy. After successfully breaking through to 3,000 Worlds realm middle stage, Gu Qingshan temporarily stopped. I need to be a bit more cautious right now. I can't break through too quickly at once, otherwise my cultivation might become unstable and cause problems. After all, the measured tribulation is a terrifying thing. Gu Qingshan stood up, walked to the edge of the deck, and looked down at the endless space vortex. Countless strange and unusual life forms were hurriedly moving about in the void. As the apocalypse approached, the void became a lot more lively. At this point, Lola's voice suddenly came from behind him. Gu Qingshan, I've received some news. Gu Qingshan turned around, only to see that Lola and Lin had arrived on the deck, heading towards him. What news? Gu Qingshan asked. It's about the real Yi Fei Li. My subordinates found traces of him. Lola spoke with a strange expression. How strange. He was clearly in my home world. How did your subordinates find him? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Lola then explained Yi Fei Li's situation to her. In truth, in front of the immeasurably powerful Bramblebird Kingdom, the majority of matters within the 900 million world layers couldn't be hidden. Information gathering has always been a profitable business, and the Bramblebirds never lacked money. Hearing Lola's explanation, Gu Qingshan smiled. It's good that he's here. Have someone take him to the Bramblebird Kingdom and meet up with us? I'm guessing that Zhang Youngho will also head there as soon as he finds out. Are they all your friends? Yes, they're very good comrades. We've been through a lot together. If that's the case, I'll arrange it right away. Saying so, Lola headed into the cabin of the ship. Gu Qingshan's mood improved. If Zhang Youngho and Yi Fei Li can fight by my side, the pressure on me would be a lot less. Who doesn't want a few reliable comrades by their side? At this point, Gu Qingshan noticed that Lin's expression wasn't quite right. She seemed to have recalled something. Although her expression remained calm, a hint of sorrow could be seen in her eyes. Gu Qingshan looked at Lin's eyes and was about to say something to distract her. At this point, Gu Qingshan suddenly sensed something. A certain thought that didn't belong to him appeared in his mind. At the same time, the world technique that had remained silent since its completion could now be activated. Could it be that because I met Lin's eyes, I completed some sort of prerequisite and activated this technique? Gu Qingshan silently thought. This is a good chance to learn more about this ability. He couldn't help but continue to activate this technique and began the next step of the world technique, corporeal transformation. Instantly, Lin, the sailboat, the space vortex, everything disappeared from Gu Qingshan's eyes. The entire world faded away from his vision. Complete emptiness. Following that, another world appeared in front of him at the speed of lightning. The sky was burning with a dark red flame. Thick smoke billowed. The ground was constantly moving like some sort of living creature. Gu Qingshan sensed something and looked up not too far away to see Lin. Lin was wearing a tattered set of armor, kneeling in front of a dying woman. There were corpses everywhere. Corpses of humans. I beg you, don't die. Just hold on a bit longer. Maybe the warp gate will be open soon. Lin hugged the woman, suppressing her voice and begging in a low voice. Tears were continuously flowing down her cheeks. The woman barely managed to raise her hand to wipe the tears off Lin's face. It's useless. We're all going to die. Only you have adapted to the abyss. You should be able to survive. The woman tried her best to smile and said. Lin couldn't hold back her tears anymore. You're all going to die because of me. I brought you here, she whimpered. Saying so, she took out a dagger, about to stab her own heart. The woman used the last of her strength to grab Lin's hand. It's not your fault. Lin, you have to promise me. Don't try to die. You had to hold on. The woman spat out a mouthful of blood and continued. Lin, if you also die, then all of our deaths will become meaningless. Live, live, for all of us. The woman's voice became weaker. She died. Lin froze for a bit, then abruptly looked up and screamed, Aorg! Tears of blood flowed from her eyes. Large masses of indescribable aura gathered from all directions and entered her body. Her body began to change. She turned into a half-human, half-spider monster. I can't die. I have to avenge everyone. The entire world resounded with her desperate voice. Gu Qingshan looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Before he could even react, the abyssal Lin, the scattered corpses, the unknown world, all of it disappeared from his eyes. In the blink of an eye, the original world returned. Gu Qingshan found himself still standing on the deck of the ship, staring at Lin. Nothing seemed to have changed. Gu Qingshan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and carefully sensed his surroundings. Indeed, this is the real world. Only a blink of an eye had passed. So what exactly happened just now? I captured a thought that belonged to Lin, then manifested it into reality? What kind of world technique is this? No, I need to calm down first. Calm down. One success doesn't mean anything. If I want to fully understand the abilities of this world technique, I need to try a few more times. At this point, Lin noticed his gaze and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something you want to tell me?" "No, I just feel like there's something on your mind," Gu Qingshan replied without changing his expression. "It's nothing. I'm just thinking about something from the past," Lin calmly replied. Gu Qingshan paused briefly and couldn't help but advise her. "What's in the past is in the past. Why think about it?" Lin looked at him and shook her head. "But there are some things that you can't let go of. They will always remain in your heart. You will always remember them, because you know that forgetting them is the same as betraying your own past." Gu Qingshan went silent. Lin walked up to the railing of the ship by herself and looked at the endless void of space outside. She looked incredibly lonely. Chapter 999. Gu Qingshan, Lin, and Lola rode the bramble ship and headed towards the mystic zones using the stealthiest method possible. At the same time, at another location, a certain world not too far away from Seaside World, the abyssal magic dragon was currently in human form, walking with a certain person on a busy street. "What you're saying is that everything here has to be bought in order to become yours, right?" the person asked. The abyssal magic dragon nodded. "Indeed, currency is a widely used symbol of value, capable of being used to buy various things, so that's how it is. No wonder we were chased by a group of people for 5 to 6 streets without paying for our meal," the person commented with interest. The abyssal magic dragon smiled flatteringly and replied, "Your Excellency, in truth, as long as you give the order, I can easily kill all of them." "No, that would be boring. It's more interesting to follow the rules." The person turned around and gave the magic dragon a warning glance. The abyssal magic dragon immediately replied, "Of course, I'll listen to you. That's more like it. Now tell me, why do people look at me so strangely when they pass by?" "Your Excellency, perhaps it's because you're wearing a skirt." "What do you mean by skirt?" "It's a type of clothing specifically worn by women, so that's why. Clothing is divided into male and female. The 900 million world layer sure is particular about it." "How interesting." The person stopped in the middle of the street and took off all of his clothes. "There's no problem now," he pridefully said. The abyssal magic dragon's mouth twitched a bit. "Your Excellency, in the 900 million world layers, wearing clothes is still highly respected in public. Why is that?" "Because in the 900 million world layers, living beings like to judge a living being's condition based on their appearance and clothing, which means a living being's appearance is more important." "Indeed," the person sighed emotionally. "So that's how it is?" "No wonder the gazes on me increased a lot after I took off my clothes. Being a human sure is troublesome." "That's right, Your Excellency." This time, the magic dragon replied with the same sentiment. That person asked again, "Little guy, since appearance is so important, is there a place that specially deals with people's appearance?" The abyssal magic dragon fell into deep thought. This terrifying existence would not go to the extent of plastic surgery. If anyone dared to cut its face, they would probably not even know how to write the word death. "Then, Your Excellency, there is. That building is specially designed for people to maintain their image." The man looked in the direction magic dragon was pointing. On top of a large signboard, a few women of different styles were smiling. Below these women, there were a few words written in the common language. What do those words mean? Wash, cut, and dry, 10 yuan. $10. Is that the amount of currency? Yes. Do we still have 10 yuan? Don't worry, sir. Although I don't usually bring money with me, I still have enough to get my hair trimmed. Very well, let's go. Sir, please wait a moment. I have to get you some clothes first. Walking on the street naked is something that will attract a lot of attention. Oh, I don't like to attract attention. Quick, find me some men's clothes. Got it. An hour later, the abyssal magic dragon accompanied the man as they left the fashion center. This time, the man's appearance was completely different. He was wearing a casual outfit. His black hair was parted 3 to 7, the length just reaching his earlobes, a pair of black-rimmed glasses on his nose, a pair of black eyes. His entire appearance made him look like a gentleman. Very good. Now no one on the street is looking at me anymore, the man said in satisfaction. Suddenly, both he and Magic Dragon looked up at the sky. Above the clouds, in the depths of the sky, two powerhouses were fighting endlessly. After watching for a while, the man asked, "Why are they fighting?" Magic Dragon replied, "Because they want to fight over a treasure." What treasure? It's the pistol in that man's hand. Is it that black thing? Yes, it's a decent gun. Unfortunately, it hasn't been fixed yet. Otherwise, it would be quite powerful, Magic Dragon explained. Hearing that, the man grabbed the air. The black gun appeared in his hand. You call something like that a treasure? He carefully looked at the black gun, a bit curious and cautious. At this point, the two people in the sky noticed that the gun had disappeared. Looking around, they immediately noticed where it went. Damn thief. You want to die? The two of them angrily dove down. Seeing their reactions, the man nodded and said, "It seems like it really is a treasure." He swung his hand and threw the gun to the sky. The two of them turned around to fight over the gun. But as they turned around to leave, they each launched an attack at that person. Perhaps it was to test him, or perhaps it was just a casual attack. Either way, boom, an intense explosion resounded. Over half the street was blown to pieces. Countless lives were lost. The man and Magic Dragon hovered above the devastated ground, completely unharmed. Are they trying to kill me? The man asked. Yes, Your Excellency, the Mystic Dragon respectfully replied. Didn't I return it to them? But they're still angry. Can they kill people just because they're angry? Of course not, but they're Lord-class combatants, so they don't care what others think of them. Because they don't care what others think, they can ignore the rules? Yes, sir. That's exactly what they think. The man thought for a bit, then reached his hand to grab the air. Two figures fell to the ground, giving off a resounding sound of impact. The dust settled. The two Lord-class combatants were restrained by an invisible force, pinned to the ground, unable to move even after using all of their strength. It was now that they realized that they had run into a true combatant. Who are you? Spare us! Spare us! They loudly shouted. The man didn't say anything and simply stared at the two Lord-class combatants. Two faint figures flew out from their bodies and landed in the man's hand. Inferior souls. They have no value at all. The man glanced at them and scoffed. He casually tossed the two souls away. The demon dragon hurriedly put the two souls away and smiled apologetically. Such petty and weak life forms. Yet they dared to attack the legendary Abyssal King. Such ignorance and arrogance is truly deserving of disdain. Hearing that, the man lightly nodded. Killing as you please when you're stronger than others. Begging for mercy when you run into someone you can't win against, without even the slightest bit of common sense and rules. Such laughable behavior is the lowest of the lowest in the abyss. There's no room for evolution. Why is it like that, sir? The Abyssal Magic Dragon respectfully asked. The other party was one of the most powerful entities in the abyss, so what he said was related to the true secrets of the abyss. So Magic Dragon quickly took the chance to ask. It's fine to tell you. Since you're following me, you need to understand a bit more. Yes, sir. I am extremely grateful for your generosity. Please grant me the knowledge of the abyss, the man replied. Souls that are too lowly would never draw the attention of the abyss. And within the abyss, Only life forms that have been carefully observed by the abyss would have the chance to evolve. Magic Dragon pondered for a bit, then dejectedly said, "Sir, I don't think I've ever been observed by the abyss." The man abruptly laughed. "Ahaha, then you'll have to work hard. After all, the eternal abyss will soon fully fuse with the 900 million world layers. Under the invasion of the parallel world apocalypse, this is the only way out. A new era is about to arrive. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1000. The endless wind of the void continued to blow without stopping. The Bramblebird ship was following a hidden flight path, tirelessly flying through the space vortex. "We've already been flying for 2 days and 2 nights. How much longer until we reach the Bramblebird Kingdom?" Lynn asked. "We'll arrive in 5 days," Lola replied. "That's so long. Why aren't you using super-distance warp?" Lynn asked in confusion. "I've been traveling from world to find you. So long-distance warp is no longer usable," Lola said as she pointed to the outside of the wooden sailboat. Lynn turned to look, only to see that more and more strange life forms were appearing within the space vortex. The space vortex was originally the space vortex behind each world, a hidden place of nothingness that existed outside the world, boundless and without end. But right now, the space vortex could only be described as crowded. Quite obviously, the Eternal Abyss's actions had alerted many mysterious life forms. Every living being realized that the 900 million world layers was undergoing a drastic change, so they had to cautiously observe the situation. More and more living beings began to flee, using the space vortex to flee towards the place they thought to be safe. Unfortunately, they didn't know that there wasn't a single place in the 900 million world layers that was safe. Lola sighed heavily and explained, "I heard from the professionists proficient in spatial magic that the tides of the Eternal Abyss are constantly flowing into the 900 million world layers, leaving behind a large number of unknown life forms in the various spatial tunnels, causing the various spatial warp tunnels to be in a state of chaos. No one can use any teleportation techniques right now. Unknown life forms that can survive in the spatial tunnels? Indeed, the 900 million world layers illustrated handbook of life doesn't have any records of those things, so we suspect that they're abyssal life forms." Lin fell into thought. Gu Qingshan had been breaking through his realm for the past few days. He definitely wants to know the secret behind the changes in the 900 million world layers. If that's the case, Lin asked Lola, "Do you have a way to show me those unknown life forms? What's so interesting about those monsters?" Lola asked in confusion. Lin explained, "Your big brother is very powerful, but he's currently in seclusion, so we'll have to investigate the matter first. That way, once he's out of seclusion, it'll be easier for us to grasp the situation." Lola was immediately convinced. "It's easy to catch monsters, but it's said that some of those unknown life forms will hurt people," Lola said. "Don't worry, I'm here," Lin said. "All right, I'll catch the monster." Lola took out a jade-green fishing rod and tossed the fishing line out of the Bramblebird ship. Miraculously, the iron hook and the fishing line disappeared into the void. Lola sat on the edge of the boat, focused on holding the fishing rod, and began to wait. It was obvious that the fishing rod was a very rare and special treasure. Lin sat down next to Lola and silently guarded her. After a while, Lola suddenly raised her fishing rod. She fished out a strange limb from the void. However, the limb struggled for a moment before it quickly escaped from the hook and disappeared. "Ah, almost," Lola said angrily. "It's all right, continue," Lin said. Lola angrily threw the hook out. She resumed fishing. As if to balance out her displeasure, Lola reached her hand out and touched the void of space. It almost looked like she was trying to win a prize. From my experience, I think I found something good this time." Lola was surprised. She pulled her hand back from the void of space. A ring with a purple gem on it appeared in her hand. This ring gave off a beautiful image of the stars that lingered for a long time. "The Heart of Stars," Lin spoke with a dry voice. "Big sis, you know about this?" "Yes, this ring has a tragic love story behind it. It's an absolute divine artifact. It said that the wearer would be able to be reborn from the stars after death. Seems like it's quite a nice item. Big sis, this is for you. Lola gave the ring to Lynn without hesitation. Lynn hurriedly refused. This is too precious. Even in the distant past, this was an extremely precious item. You should use it for yourself. Ahaha. I've been paying a lot of attention to my safety lately. I have a lot of life-saving items on me. Lola didn't say anything and put the ring on Lynn's finger. Big sis Lynn, I don't really understand how combat works, but you give me a very similar feeling to a friend of mine. Both of you are martial artists who don't care about your lives. So you must have life-saving measures. A friend of yours? Yes. A blade user that I admire very much. You'll be able to meet her when we return to the Bramble Bird Kingdom. Lola smiled mysteriously. Lynn looked at the ring on her finger and sighed. Since she's already wearing it, taking it off would be too fake. Not to mention, this little girl didn't really need a ring like this. Lola, the thing you grabbed just now, was it a manifestation of an ability? Lynn asked. Yes, I can directly grab ownerless treasures from the void of space. Whenever I'm in a bad mood, I like to play this game a few times. Saying so, Lola abruptly pulled her fishing rod. Got it, she loudly shouted, only to see a struggling cluster of flames on the hook heading straight for the Bramblebird ship. Lola suddenly screamed, Big sis, save me. It turned out that upon a closer look, it was actually a skeleton covered in flames. The skeleton looked at Lola and Lynn and uttered a sentence in an obscure language. At this point, Lynn had already flown up, grabbed the skeleton with one hand, and struck the skull with the other. Bam! The skull instantly exploded. The flames on the skeleton were completely extinguished. Lynn returned to the Bramble Bird ship. It's fine. I've already destroyed it. She quickly consoled Lola. Oh, it's a good thing Big Sis is here. It looked too scary, Lola commented. She then asked, It seemed to have said something just now. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand it. That was the abyssal language, Lynn slowly replied. It said that I was a traitor of the abyss and had mixed with living beings. What happened? Gu Qingshan's voice came from behind them. Weren't you in seclusion to break through? Why did you come out? Lynn asked. It just ended. I sensed some commotion from a battle, so I came to take a look, Gu Qingshan replied. Lynn then told her what happened just now. That flame skeleton is a type of abyssal monster. Gu Qingshan asked. Yes, it's nothing but a servant. Its master is an eternal monster called the Darkbone Gatherer. Is the Darkbone Gatherer powerful? Very powerful. Although the majority of abyssal monsters are undead, the Darkbone Gatherer can take advantage of other monsters' slumber to enslave their bodies. This way, even if they resurrect, they would still be under its control. Can you win against it? If I had an abyssal form, I might be able to. Gu Qingshan nodded, understanding what Lynn meant. She couldn't fight against the Darkbone Gatherer right now. Lynn continued. The crux of the matter is that the Darkbone Gatherer had sent its subordinates to interfere with the warp space of the 900 million world layers. It must be plotting something. I also think that it's plotting something big, Gu Qingshan agreed. Now that we know the truth of this matter, to avoid trouble, we need to leave this place as soon as possible, Lynn sighed. I'm going to speed up the ship, Lola said. Lola jumped down from the side of the ship and ran into the cabin. Only Gu Qingshan and Lynn were left on the deck of the ship. Gu Qingshan spoke. I suddenly realized something. In the entire 900 million world layers, the only person who can recognize these monsters and notice their intentions behind their actions is you. So you want me to go into the warp space to find out more information? Lynn asked. For some reason, her heart felt a bit tense. No, you're mistaken. I just hope that you won't try to look into their secrets again, Gu Qingshan replied. Lynn froze and doubtfully asked, But if I don't, you won't be able to find out anything. Gu Qingshan shook her head. I hope that you understand something. You're no longer in abyssal form. Your situation is very dangerous. You can't risk yourself to look for information. Lynn froze. Gu Qingshan smiled and continued. Let's take a step back and say that if I really need any information, I have a way to obtain it. You don't need to risk your life for such a thing. Gu Qingshan nodded to Lynn, turned around, and quickly walked away. As far as his eyes could see, the void of space parted as a world slowly unfolded in front of him. Lynn stared blankly at him. Why? Why is his attitude so different? Wait a minute. Is this a world created by your iris technique? What are you planning to do? Lin loudly asked from behind him. Measure tribulation. Are you sure? Don't worry, I won't die. Saying so, Gu Qingshan entered that world. The world quickly turned into nothingness and disappeared from Lin's sight. Chapter 1001. Gu Qingshan picked up a handful of sand. Under the scorching heat of the sun, the sand was boiling hot like a ball of fire. Feeling the heat in his hand, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but exclaim, "So real." He swung his hand to scatter the sand in the air. The intense wind quickly blew the yellow sand away, revealing the flawless blue sky. Gu Qingshan leapt into the air and looked around. The boundless sea of sand. This was the drifting sand world. It was also the world where Gu Qingshan first met Little Dusk. Gu Qingshan fell into thought. Could it be the world that I'm manifesting is based on my memories? He reached his hand out and grabbed the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword from the void of space. The sword slashed. The void of space was cut apart to reveal the scenery behind the world, the Bramble Bird ship. How do you feel? Gu Qingshan asked. Shanu's voice came from the sword. Gongzi, this world technique of yours is a bit unstable. It's not hard for me to break it. In other words, this is a very weak technique. Truthfully, being able to create a world out of nothing is already very impressive. Gongzi, you don't need to feel too dejected, Shanu consoled him. I'm not dejected. You're the sword that broke all laws. I just want to understand the situation a bit more. See how this world can be adjusted to improve it, Gu Qingshan replied. While saying that, he was also thinking about what happened not too long ago. This world can be improved even more. Gongzi is truly impressive, Shanna praised. Gu Qingshan smiled, but didn't say anything else. He closed his eyes and began to slowly adjust his state. After failing the first measure tribulation, he had to use the heaven swords, chaotic flow, to fall back to 3,000 worlds realm, early realm, to avoid death. After a long period of hard work, Gu Qingshan had once again reached 3,000 worlds realm peak, ready to face the measure tribulation again. This time, following the giant corpse's instructions, he used the powerful profession of the inner plane, envoy of condemnation, to create a world using inner plane cards. In truth, how powerful this world was and whether or not it could be of any use in battle weren't the key. As long as it could help Gu Qingshan complete her tribulation, Gu Qingshan would thank the heavens and earth. Gu Qingshan calmed her breathing, silently channeling her spirit energy. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Following his will, the spirit energy in his body once again gathered and began to break through to Paragon Realm. A line of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI. The Paragon Realm tribulation is about to begin. Attention! This Heaven's tribulation is a measure tribulation following the War God UI's reminder. Heaven and Earth began to sense Gu Qingshan's spirit energy fluctuations. The world started to change. In the desert, all the yellow sand had lost its color and turned into bottomless cliffs. Only the place where Gu Qingshan was standing was a lonely high platform suspended in midair. Following that, images began to appear in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes, stretching all the way to the end of the world. All of these images were completely still. The terrifying monsters that were killed by Gu Qingshan were all staring at him on the platform, ready to strike. Die, die, die. The monsters roared in unison. Their overwhelming killing intent filled the entire world. Gu Qingshan ignored them and turned around to look behind him. The world behind him began to shatter into pieces, then dissipated into the endless darkness. This was the power of the law of destruction. Any living being that was tainted by this darkness would only be able to shatter together with the real world. Even their souls would be destroyed, not even giving them a chance to reincarnate. Even if Gu Qingshan was several realms higher, he wouldn't be able to stop this power. I definitely can't touch it. Gu Qingshan turned around to look at the still images in front of him. He leapt forward and entered the first image. The measure tribulation had begun. The first image was still the black-horned devil with the goat's horns. It was the first demon that Gu Qin killed, now manifested by the law of heaven and earth to avenge its death. Gu Qin sensed it and found that it was still 3 times stronger than before. If the monster's power would still increase by 3 times, then he could only wait and see if the heaven's tribulation would give him enough merit to counteract the tribulation. Gu Qin swung his sword. The monster and the entire image were slashed to pieces. Gu Qin had already appeared behind the image, heading towards the second image. Behind him, the law of destruction seemed to have fully awakened, quickly spreading forward. It was chasing after Gu Qin. 1 breath's worth of time. The second image shattered. Gu Qin appeared again, heading towards the third image. This image showed a group of assassins from the Federation. Just like the previous measure tribulation, these people were also strengthened by the law of heaven and earth to have the power of a rejuvenation realm cultivator. Gu Qin focused his mind. His sword slashed again. Everyone was killed. The image shattered again. Gu Qin continued forward. Everything was going smoothly, and he didn't waste any time at all. But Gu Qinshan's heart sank a bit more. Sure enough, in the next image, the group of demons that he killed before also had their power increased by 3 times. But his merit still hadn't appeared. Gu Qin attacked with his sword, killing all the enemies before entering the next image. This time, he was facing Li Chong and Yu killed. Li Chong was about to shout, "Sha!" His head was cut off by a cold gleam. The corpse fell. The image shattered. Gu Qin wielded his sword and jumped into the next image. A horde of demons. Back in Shunwu world, he used the lightning of tribulation to kill all these demons. At this moment, each demon was granted the power of ascended realm by the law of heaven and earth. But still no merit appeared. Gu Qin calmed himself down and charged into the horde of demons. The giant corpse wouldn't lie to me. But where's the merit? Then again, what kind of thing would be recognized as merit by the law of heaven and earth? Gu Qin quickly thought about it. A series of shattering noises resounded. The world shattered again. Gu Qin didn't even have time to breathe and quickly entered the next image. "You killed me, you killed me," a cultivator shouted in a frenzy. Following that, several spirit beasts also appeared. These were the cultivators and spirit beasts that he killed during the spirit beast rampage. Just like last time, Gu Qin raised his sword and explained to the cultivator, "Military law is as strict as a mountain. Don't blame me." A human head flew to the sky. The cries of countless spirit beasts followed. This scene shattered into pieces. Gu Qin landed on the ground and ran towards the next image. What exactly counts as merit? Why didn't I see any merit at all? He thought about it again, but he didn't have enough time to think about this. Behind him, the darkness continued to spread. Gu Qin couldn't help but quickly enter the next image. Roar! A faceless giant roared and charged straight at him. This faceless giant came from the dark tunnel, the one he killed when he first came to Huang Quan from the human realm. It was still 3 times more powerful than before. But Gu Qin wasn't worried about the monster in front of him. He killed it with a single strike. Gu Qin once again entered another image. Wielding the twin swords heaven and earth, he slaughtered a group of vicious demons. These were the demons that guarded the dark tunnel at the time, also listed by the law of heaven and earth as a punishment for Gu Qinshan's killing. At this point, Gu Qinshan's heart started beating faster. It's almost time for the Battle of Huang Quan. If I still don't have any merit when I enter the Huang Quan image, I'll be in big trouble. Should I think of a way to escape from this measure tribulation? No. I've already retreated once before the measure tribulation. This time, I've made ample preparations. Not only did I thoroughly read through the experiences of cultivators from the age of old, but I also specifically created an inner plane for myself. If I still have to retreat like this, when would I be able to advance? Gu Qin gritted his teeth and entered the image. The image shattered. The image in front of him displayed the scene of the dead people of Huang Quan. This image was his killing within Huang Quan. Without hesitation, Gu Shan jumped in. Just like when he first entered Huang Quan, he began to fall from the sky. On the vast land below him, the dead were densely packed and filled every inch of the ground within his sight. Gu Shan stopped in midair and released his inner sight to search further into the image. Just like last time, countless dead people filled the entire world, all of them endowed with sainted realm power. Dying! The dead roared in anger. Shanu's worried voice came. Gongzi, it seems we still can't do it. Let's go. She urged him. Gu Shan stood still without moving. He took out the earth sword and 6 paths great mountain sword, wielding them in his hands. I don't believe this. As he spoke, a sharp sword chi burst out of his body, and his whole body rushed towards the endless dead. Time stopped at this moment. All the dead people fell into a state of stillness. Gu Shan suddenly noticed that the scenery around him had begun to change. The scene of the past replayed itself. He killed his way into Huang Quan, met Shanu, saved the weapons, became the Devil King, controlled the 7-colored spear to kill all the demons, threw the spear out of Huang Quan, returned to the human realm by himself, fought against the heavenly god, led countless dead people to fight against the demon lord army, and finally won. The image only ended when the Azura female, Ji Luo, hugged him, smiled, and disappeared. A sliver of golden light appeared behind Gu Shan's head and formed a circle. A few moments later, a towering golden light suddenly appeared from Gu Shan's body, illuminating the countless dead people on the ground. This was Gu Shan's merit. Merit had finally appeared. Chapter 1002. Golden light erupted from Gu Shan's body. As the surging dead sensed the power of the golden light, they no longer had the killing intent from before and simply stood still without moving. Gu Shan observed his surroundings. Everything was still. Within the scene, besides himself, nothing else could move. Within the measured tribulation, the dark law of destruction also temporarily stopped as the golden light appeared. Under the illumination of the golden light of merit, Gu Shan finally found a way to survive within the measured tribulation. The laws of heaven and earth support all living beings, but they are also affected by all living beings. Cultivators who recklessly kill and destroy everything will be mercilessly erased by the laws of heaven and earth during the measured tribulation. But those who do good deeds to save living beings and protect the laws of heaven and earth will also receive extra care from the laws due to their merit. The laws of heaven and earth wish for such people to continue living. This was the true meaning of the measured tribulation. This time, it was Gu Shan's turn to face the true measured tribulation. After a breath's worth of silence, the scene changed again. From nothing to something, an extremely pure light descended from the sky, resonating with the golden light of merit around Gu Shan's body. As Gu Shan looked at the light, he felt like there were countless tiny voices telling him about the light's identity. It sounded like the sound of the wind, but it also sounded like many people were whispering to him. Gu Shan suddenly understood. The laws of heaven and earth are communicating with me. They are telling me that this is the first light that was birthed by heaven and earth, a secret that's even more profound than the secrets of the world itself. This light is called the indestructible origin, and according to the legends, it's guarded by true divinities, never allowing anyone to obtain it easily. Gu Shan's heart skipped a beat. So I saved the world of the samsara. The light seemed to be attracted by the golden light around his body, turning into a thin thread that flew towards the golden ring behind his head. The light wrapped around the golden thread, giving off a gentle white light. Within the white light, Gu Shan felt a sense of realization. He just found out a true secret, the secret of life and death. I see, Gu Shan mumbled as she looked at the countless dead people on the ground. So, the reason why the initial divine light appeared was because Gu Shan had done something extremely rare. He had killed countless dead people. The dead were people who had already died. They were the final form of life. According to common sense, life was divided into life and death. His body dissipated, and his soul left his body and entered a state of death, becoming a dead person. The dead would always be reincarnated and would not completely disappear. The cycle of life and death was endless. But Gu Shan used the Devil King Wardenrod's power to break the dead state, pushing them into a state that they rarely see. The soul dissipated. Even after the soul dissipated, the last and most essential part of all living beings, the spirituality that contained all the mysteries, still remained. It was not in life realm, and neither was it in death realm. It was in the most primitive state. Chaos. Primal chaos was the source of everything. Compared to all things, all living beings, and the world, it was where the deepest mysteries of the natural laws resided. It gave birth to everything. That was why Gu Shan pushed so many dead people whose souls dissipated into primal chaos at once, creating a rare causality. Because he had used an extremely incorrect method, these entities were rejected by primal chaos, unable to merge with it or return to the cycle of life and death. An incorrect method? Hearing the law of heaven and earth's description, Gu Shan had a lot of thoughts. He silently asked the war god Ui, "What do you mean by an incorrect method?" The war god Ui went silent briefly before displaying a few lines of glowing text. The power of the Samsara divine artifact originates from the Samsara itself. Although it is small, the power it contains is real, so it is incompatible with primal chaos. That's why the law of heaven and earth took advantage of my measure tribulation to find me. Indeed, you might need to make a decision now. At the same time, countless whispers resounded in Gu Shan's ears. Although he couldn't hear what they were saying, Gu Shan slowly understood what they were trying to say. This was a miraculous occurrence. The law of heaven and earth was using the initial spirit light to tell him that it was time for him to make a decision. Either he used his merit to save these entities that weren't even souls and return them to the state of death. This way, the dead would return to their souls and return to the normal cycle of life and death. Other than that, there was another choice. Using the power of merit, Gu Shan could completely dissolve these entities into a part of primal chaos. This would strengthen the power of primal chaos, but the dead would never be able to return to the state of the cycle of life and death. They would turn into pure, primal chaos power. And now, the choice was in Gu Shan's hands. Should I let these villains return to Huang Quan to suffer, or should I let them completely disappear? The endless whispers in Gu Shan's ears temporarily disappeared. The law of heaven and earth was waiting for him to make his choice. A few moments of silence. Gu Shan once again recalled how he killed these villains in the past. It's true that the heavens are benevolent. Even we don't like to push others too far, he muses for a bit, then continued. But for villains like you, I don't think there's any need to forgive any of you. You should all die. Following his words, the law of heaven and earth responded. The light around Gu Shan's body once again erupted, turning into a blazing sun that hovered in the sky. Under the illumination of the sun, the bodies of the billions of dead turned into quicksand and slowly sank into the desert. The billions of dead scattered into a sea of sand, no longer able to return to the state of life and death. Lines of glowing text suddenly appeared on the war god. Ui, frowny face, you've learned the true secret of life and death. You've automatically become the guardian of the secret. You've increased the power of primal chaos. The laws of heaven and earth have been strengthened by a negligible strand because of your actions. The laws of heaven and earth have changed their attitude towards you. You've received a gift from the laws of the inner plane. World origin. Your world technique has become more stable. From now on, you have a complete inner plane, which will form various worlds according to the way you construct it. Furthermore, your measure tribulation has been completed. Boom. The entire world collapsed. The images shattered one after another. The darkness that represented the law of destruction vanished without a trace. Gu Shan was pushed back into the bramble great tree ship by an immense force. In front of his eyes, the last notification appeared in the glowing text. You become a Paragon Realm cultivator. Gu Qingshan was surprised. I'm already a Paragon Realm cultivator? Why don't I feel anything? While he was thinking, he suddenly felt a chill on his forehead. A sky-piercing light shot out from his forehead, shooting straight into the space vortex. His spirit energy was increasing at a terrifying rate. 10%, 20%, 40%, 70%. His spirit energy had increased by 70%. According to common sense, the amount of spirit energy determined the power of a cultivator's techniques. With the boost of his spirit energy, Gu Qingshan's fighting strength had almost doubled. He clenched his fist tightly, exuding boundless fighting spirit as he stared at the countless entities within the space vortex. Power. I finally have great power. At this moment, with the boost of spirit energy, Gu Qingshan felt that he could easily fight against those powerful enemies. I can even do that. Dash, are you all right? A female voice suddenly resounded, cutting off Gu Qingshan's thoughts. Gu Qingshan turned to look. Lin, who was wearing a set of majestic armor, an elemental gauntlet, completely unharmed and in peak condition. Lin observed Gu Qingshan and smiled. Not bad. You've finally broken through. How about I use a bit more strength to spar with you? You were full of fighting spirit just now. Why did you suddenly frown and sigh? I don't want to discuss this with you. Chapter 1003. The 900 million world layers. The fallen zones. A certain world that had just been destroyed. The battle between the Soul Shrieker and the Demon King Order had finally reached its final moments. Numerous powerful demon lords were beaten to a pulp. Unable to continue fighting, their gigantic bodies laid on the ground, unable to move. The corpses of demonized and demons were piled up all over the world. The Soul Shrieker stood on top of the endless corpses, grabbed the head of a human male, lifted him up, and forced him to face itself. Look at me. I know you are on this bygone era corpse, the Soul Shrieker continued with its male voice. Although we've always been competing for living beings and worlds, never talking to each other, the situation has now changed. Puny and weak order. You forced me into a long and arduous battle, preventing me from consuming the wonderful souls of billions of worlds. The Soul Shrieker's male voice abruptly turned into a high-pitched female voice, furiously shouting, I will now destroy everything you have, end this war, and seal you away to a state where you will never be able to awaken again. The human male spat up some blood and scoffed. As a predator of souls, you are too insane and foolish. Do you think I'm insane? The Soul Shrieker asked with a hint of meaning. The human male replied, Of course you are. Have you not considered the fact that if billions of living beings are destroyed by you, you will also be cut off from all food in the distant future? You don't even understand such a simple principle. Cut off all food? Ah ha ha! The Soul Shrieker raised its head to the sky and laughed as if it had heard a joke. After a while, it mocked. When everyone thought that I was insane or foolish, I had already completed the most important step of my plan. This statement was completely out of the human male's expectations. He couldn't help but appear confused. The Soul Shrieker stared at him, then changed into its male voice and spoke. I can now sense that there are no longer any carriers of the Demon King Order within the 900 million world layers, so Demon King Order, everything you represent has been ended, including you. All orders shall now fall into slumber. Unable to interfere with me, the human male was originally calm. But as soon as he heard this, he felt an unprecedented sense of fear. So the seed of chaos is on you, he shouted, desperately struggling to escape from the other party's grasp. But the Soul Shrieker's hand remained as firm as a rock, unmoving. Moments later, the man panted and gave up struggling. He seemed to understand everything and finally said, No wonder in the age of old. The Demon King Order was the first order to be awakened by you. The Soul Shrieker displayed a prideful smile and slowly spoke. Indeed, among all the orders, the Demon King Order is the most extreme. Once it is awakened as the first order, it would definitely not awaken the other orders right away. So I came up with this method, slowly, forcing the orders into a dead end. No, the man spoke in despair. The soul shrieker spoke with both its male and female voices. Final carrier of order. At the moment of your death, the demon king order shall be completely sealed away by me. From now on, all orders shall lose their chance to awaken, while my true body shall begin to act, spreading true chaos. Across the infinite worlds, the soul shrieker abruptly raised its voice and declared, in the final confrontation between order and chaos, I shall represent chaos in obtaining the final victory. It stretched out its other hand and pierced through the man's body. The man struggled intensely, but to no avail. His life slowly left his body. Envoy of chaos, you will not get what you wish. After saying so, he died. The soul shrieker lightly placed the body on the ground and chanted an incantation towards the body. While chanting, it walked around the body with an extremely serious expression. From the looks of it, it wasn't as insane as the observers described it to be. A few moments later, the soul shrieker stopped and whispered to the body, with chaos as the foundation, I shall seal this order for all eternity. Intense air currents radiated from its body and completely enveloped the body on the ground. A second later, as soon as the soul shrieker displayed a smile, all the air currents abruptly dissipated. Nothing happened to the body at all. The soul shrieker was surprised. No, damned order! Its furious roar resounded across the entire world. At another location, the Mystic Zones, the Bramblebird Kingdom, a dignified and beautiful woman stood on the arena, wielding a blade in her hand while holding her breath. Around her, several fully armored Thornguard had just stood up from the ground. I'm not fighting anymore. You look so gentle on the outside, but you're so scary when you're fighting, one of the Thornguard dejectedly said. That's right, it's only a practice session, but I feel like you're going to kill me, another Thornguard also protested. Ning Yuechan put her blade away. Her presence changed and returned to her gentle self. Please forgive me, I didn't think you would all be holding back, she said apologetically. The other Thornguards were surprised. All right, we were holding back, that's right, it's just a practice session. There's no need to go all out, it's just a sparring session. There's no need to fight to the death. Saying so, they supported each other as they walked away. Ning Yuechan pursed her lips, trying her best to maintain her composure and hide the smile on her face. These people all grew up in a comfortable environment, so their weapons and treasures were extremely powerful, but their own strength was too low, so it wasn't too hard to deal with them. Unfortunately, it's been a long time since I've been in a life-or-death situation, so my blade skills are improving very slowly. I wonder how that guy is doing. She sighed. Lola said that she was going to pick him up, so it'll be a few days before she returns. At that time, I'll be able to see him. All of a sudden, Ning Yuechan's expression changed. In her vision, a line of blood-red text appeared out of nowhere. Frowny face, final carrier of the life order. I need you to do something for me. What is it? Ning Yuechan asked. The blood-red text replied, go to the strife zones to find someone. Don't worry, I know a secret path that will allow you to enter the hidden strife zones. Why do I have to do that? Ning Yuechan curiously asked. Because that person has the other half of me. The time has come. You need to make me whole again. Ning Yuechan hesitated. Before she entered the strife zones, she had passed the test before Gu Qingshan and carried the life order. It was said that the old gods hated order, so they created their own orders to fight against the true orders. This was how the life order was supposed to be. But following the seven demons' divine decree and the opening of the path to demigod, the life order no longer existed. Only Ning Yuechan still had a bit of the life order, as power left in her body. And now, just as I was about to wait for him to return, this happened again. Perhaps sensing Ning Yuechan's hesitation, lines of blood-red text appeared again. Frowny face, you must help me regain my power again. This is related to the fate of all living beings. If you and that person fail, trust me, the infinite world will be completely destroyed. You fought by my side for so long, you should know that I never lie. Ning Yuechan sighed and made her decision. You've saved me a few times, she helplessly said. I don't like owing others, so just tell me, who do you want me to find? From the void of space, the appearance of a woman appeared. It was a beautiful girl who appeared to be very pure, smiling sweetly at Ning Yuechan. Ning Yuechan scowled. This girl looks too pure, not at all like a warrior. After the seven gods' miracles disappeared, the strife zones had already fallen into chaos. Are you sure a girl like her is still alive? From the void of space, lines of blood-red text flashed and appeared again. Frowny face. This is her appearance from a long time ago, when she had just arrived at the Fog Isle of the Sea of Death. Ning Yuechan was surprised. The Fog Isle of the Sea of Death. So she was a card user. Lines of blood-red text continued to appear in the void of space. Frowny face go. Ning Yuechan, you must find this girl because the other half of me is currently in a half-asleep state, hiding inside her body. The two of you must work together to awaken the real me. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1004. The 900 million world layers. The strife zones that had fallen into chaos and war. The Fog Isle world of the Dead Sea. In the sky, a gigantic black monster's body was silently gliding forward. The abyssal behemoth. It was flying across this world at an extremely low distance. The behemoth had no interest in this world that couldn't even compare to 1/10 of its body. But the civilization that resided on its body didn't think the same. Unlike the skeleton civilization that Gu Qingshan ran into before, this time, it was a scale-skinned humanoid monster that gave off a black glow. As they moved, the black light on their bodies covered them, and they flew in the sky like gliders. Countless black shadows descended from the sky, invaded the Fog Isle, and went after all the fresh flesh and blood. Land, seawater, clean air, food, everything was their target. The war had entered its most desperate phase right from the start. The knights and mages of the Holy Church of Fate were doing everything they could to stop these unknown enemies. Rumble. With the sound of thunder, torrential rain poured down. The explosions of spells and the screams of agony never stopped. Blood flowed everywhere. But there was no turning back. In this war, any begging for mercy would only result in one thing: being slit on the spot. The civilizations of the Abyss did not accept surrender. In their eyes, these enemies who resisted were actually delicious to eat after they died. The power of a professionist could be fully absorbed by them. As the war entered its most desperate phase, a warhorse covered in metal armor appeared on the battlefield. A white-robed woman wielding a long staff appeared at the front lines. The substitute pope is here. The knights around her loudly cheered. Amidst the thunderous cheers, Su Cher raised the staff in her hand. Blood Sea, I offer my devout heart. With the greatest respect, I call upon your power. A blinding light erupted from the staff. 12 cards with blood-red patterns appeared and revolved around the formation. Su Cher put the 12 cards into her hand, let go of the staff, and swiftly joined the cards together like blurred images. Come to my side. Fight by my side. I promise, all heroic spirits that die in battle shall return to the Blood Sea. All enemies are nourishment for the Blood Sea. As he spoke, the 12 cards formed a picture. However, the back of the picture was facing the front, so it was impossible to tell what it was. Su Cher stretched out her hand and pressed it on the screen. Her beautiful voice resounded throughout the battlefield. Surging Blood Sea, you know the fetters of our fates. At this moment, I summon your army and your leader. Following her voice, the 12 cards flipped over and formed a magnificent blood-red sea. In the next second, the 12 cards disappeared at the same time. The sea of blood appeared in this world under everyone's feet. Su Cher summoned a world to descend upon this world. Countless blood armor warriors slowly walked out of the sea of blood. They were fully equipped, each holding a suitable weapon, and walked out of the card world under the lead of the Blood Sea God Navy. The Blood Sea Army appeared on the Fog Island in the Dead Sea. Long live! Long live! All hail the Deputy Hall Master! The warriors of the Fortune Shrine cheered. But it wasn't over yet. Su Cher placed her hand on the world of the Blood Sea and shouted, Blood Giant, Astaroth! Boom! A giant slowly stood up from the sea of blood. I want to kill all of these abyssal fleas. The blood giant roared. He quickly rushed towards the battlefield. Sushare continued to circulate the soul points inside her body and shouted, "Sir Bloodcrow, I summon your power." From the sea of blood, a masked assassin slowly appeared. He wielded a blood-stained ancient dagger with both hands and spoke in a low voice. "It's time to reap the harvest." As soon as he said so, he disappeared without a trace. On the battlefield, desperate screams resounded one after another. The civilization that came from the abyssal behemoth was being slaughtered like never before. The situation was slowly turning around. After unleashing so many large-scale spell cards in a row, Sushare was also a bit tired. She sat on the back of her horse, slowly breathing heavily and resting. At this point, a messenger caught up from behind, knelt down on one knee in front of Sushare, and loudly declared, "Report." "What is it? Speak quickly," Sushare said. "The Holy Church of Death Saintess Anna is currently leading an army of Death Knights to reinforce us. Where is she now?" "She's about to enter our world." "Humph. All 7 holy churches have declared that they will advance and retreat together. But only the Holy Church of Death came to reinforce us." Saying so, Sushare's eyebrows relaxed. All of a sudden, she noticed lines of blood-red text appearing in the void of space in front of her. The system that had been silent for a very long time was now spamming like crazy. Sushare couldn't help but feel a bit surprised and read through them one by one. Frowny face. Emergency. Emergency. The final carrier of order has died. A monster from the eternal abyss, the envoy of chaos. The avatar of the soul shrieker is about to arrive at the strife zones to find you. It will kill you. Sushare, you must escape immediately. Seeing these notifications, Sushare's heart skipped a beat. As the manager of the Holy Church, she more or less understood what kind of entity the soul shrieker was. "Why is it coming to find me?" Sushare couldn't help but ask. "Because the survival of billions of worlds rests on the shoulders of you and another person. If you fall into the soul shrieker's hands, all worlds will be destroyed." The blood-red text continued to show her. "Sushare, you need to find a place to hide until the other person follows my guidance and finds you. Find me? And then what? I will truly awaken. I will lead you to find the person who returned from the age of old. The only man within the 900 million world layers who is qualified to be called the Demon King. Only he holds the final hope against chaos." Sushare scowled. "What a mess. I don't even know what you're talking about. Even if everything you're saying is true, I won't go." She abruptly shut her mouth. Because the final line of blood-red text had appeared. That man is called Gu Qing Shan. At another location. The hidden flight path to the mystic zones. The Bramble Great Tree airship was quickly flying. A few days had passed. They would arrive at the Bramble Bird Kingdom in just one more day. Gu Qing Shan was chatting with Lola and Lin on the airship. "Lola, I once asked the Bramble Great Tree to send you a message. Did you get it?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "I did." Lola smiled sweetly. She took out 2 coins and put them in Gu Qing Shan's hand. Gu Qing Shan looked down. These 2 coins were the Demon King Order and the Bramble Great Tree. Who would have thought that in such a short amount of time, Lola would be able to collect 2 coins? This is truly... how unexpected. How did you find these 2 coins? Gu Qing Shan was surprised. "I promised a few worlds full of treasures. Then the Bramble Great Tree coin was brought to me with both hands. Where's the other one?" The Demon King Order was a bit more troublesome, so I had no choice but to send a large number of bounty hunters into the fallen zones and found it in one of the ruins. Didn't that cost a lot of your treasures? "Ah, it's fine. I only spent a bit." Gu Qing Shan and Lin exchanged glances and understood the meaning in each other's eyes. Other than Lola, no other deity would be able to accomplish this so quickly. All of a sudden, a bright green leaf appeared out of nowhere and fell into Lola's hand. As soon as Lola saw it, her expression changed and muttered, "The results have just been determined. In the final battle, the Demon King Order was ended by the Soul Shrieker. The Soul Shrieker has left the Fallen Zones and is heading towards the Strife Zones." She ran towards the cabin of the ship and said, We need to leave this space as soon as possible and return to the mystic zones. Big sis Lin, I don't have enough strength. Please help me steer the ship. Lin complied and followed him. Only Gu Qingshan was left on the deck. What is this soul shrieker thinking? Didn't it go insane? But its actions seemed to have a goal in mind. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then suddenly took out a ring. There's no point in thinking about anything else right now. The most important thing right now is to make myself stronger. She looked at the ring. A pure and transparent piece of amber was embedded into the ring. There weren't any ancient creatures sealed inside this piece of enchanting amber. But if one took a closer look, they would notice that there was a faint glow of starlight inside the amber. Gu Qingshan carefully observed the amber ring and recalled the conversation she had with the Fairy of Time. Your eyes contain all of the true meaning of your swordsmanship. After some thought, I felt that there is a power that is very suitable for you. What do you mean by power? In the words of you cultivators, this power is called a thaumaturgy. When you reach the next realm, this ring will bring you to the remains of a parallel world where you will obtain this power that I'm talking about. Thank you for your generosity. Gu Qingshan didn't hesitate and crushed the amber in her hand. A cluster of starlight came out from the amber and formed the Fairy of Time's appearance in the air. The Fairy of Time smiled at Gu Qingshan. We meet again, little one whose identity I've kept a secret. Greetings, Your Excellency. Gu Qingshan bowed and replied. No need to be so polite. This was the final meeting of fate that could be seen clearly. After this, fate and space-time will undergo a drastic change. No one can predict what will happen in the future. Are you all right? Me? I'm currently leading the entire war, but for a youngster like you, I can still spare some time to take a look, the Fairy of Time continued. Your world has received the support of the Iris Sword technique, the support of earth, water, fire, and wind, the laws of the inner plane, and the power of primal chaos. You still lack one more thing to complete it. She reached out her hand, made entirely of stars, and lightly tapped Gu Qingshan's forehead. Go, Gu Qingshan, go to the place I marked and complete your technique. I hope that you'll be able to fight alongside us in the near future. I look forward to seeing you again. After saying so, the Fairy of Time disappeared from Gu Qingshan's face. Gu Qingshan closed his eyes and stood there for a while longer. He had found out the location of that place. Chapter 1005. A Certain World. A bar. A screen of light hovered in the middle of the bar, broadcasting the latest news from the 900 million world layers. Shocking news. After a long and shocking war that destroyed the entire Fallen Zones, the monster from God Institute had won against the Demon King Order. I must say, the battle between the monster and the Demon King Order was a dog-eat-dog battle. No matter who was killed, we would all applaud. However, please pay attention. The monster from God Institute had left the Fallen Zones. It is heading toward the Strife Zones. I repeat, it is heading towards the Strife Zones. Although we don't know how it managed to find the hidden Strife Zones within the space vortex. Since it has already left, it must have a way to do so. Friends of the Strife Zones, please pay attention to your own safety. However, the Eternal Abyss is currently flooding into the 900 million world layers. There is no place that is safe in this era. Regardless of whether the world exists or is destroyed, gossip is the only thing we have to talk about to pass the time. I will now introduce you to a piece of gossip. The Bramblebird Kingdom had specifically sent out a high-ranking diplomatic group to welcome the Bramblebird Duke of another race, the human male Yi Fei Li from Scattered World. Please take a look. They have already received Duke Yi Fei Li. This is so enviable. Shocking. This detestable little... No. This esteemed Duke will soon possess wealth and authority that none of us could even imagine in our entire lives. On the screen, Yi Fei Li's image appeared. He was standing next to the Bramble Bird General of the diplomatic group with a confused expression, looking a bit uneasy. It wasn't until someone next to him reminded him that he revealed a stiff smile. Puffed. Someone on the bar counter spat out a mouthful of alcohol. Sir, you... The bartender was a burly man covered in tattoos, complaining in dissatisfaction. Ah, I'm sorry, I drank a bit too fast. Please give me another glass. The rest is your tip. Ding, ding, clang, clang. The coins fell on the bar counter, giving off a clear sound. The bartender's anger disappeared, and he turned to get the wine. It was now that Jang Young-ho muttered in a low voice. This brat, why did he suddenly come to the 900 million world layers and become a duke? This matter has a familiar feeling. Could it be hinting at something? No, I have to go take a look. The sound faded away. Several breaths later. Customer, this is your wine. Where is he? Within the turbulent streams of space. The Bramble Saint ship sped up and headed towards the mystic zones. Lola and Lin returned to the cabin and focused on piloting the ship back to the mystic zones. Gu Shan stood alone on the deck, thought for a while, and finally made a decision. He went into the cabin. Lola, he called. Gu Shan, why did you come down? Piloting the spaceship is the job of us women. You go up and rest, Lola said. It's not about piloting the ship. Gu Shan put the remaining 20 cards in front of Lola. What are you doing? They're all for you to use. There's no need to give them to me, Lola said. There's no need. I've already taken all the cards I need. I can't use these, and I don't need them. Gu Shan smiled. All right. Lola reluctantly put the card away. Also, we're not going to the Bramblebird Kingdom for now, Gu Shan said. All right, what? We're not going back to the Bramblebird Kingdom? Where are we going? Lola couldn't help but ask. First to the mystic zones, then to the broken abyss of broken worlds, Gu Shan replied. What? Gu Shan, that place is too dangerous. Lola exclaimed. Don't worry, Gu Shan smiled. We're not going in. We're just going to take a stroll outside and look for something. You're not going in? That's good to hear, Lola sighed in relief. Only I can bring you into that place, and it's still very dangerous. We'll go to the edge of that place. Wait for me on the ship for a bit. After I'm done with something, we'll leave, Gu Shan said. What is it? Lin asked. Gu Shan truthfully told them, my world technique requires me to obtain a specific item from that place in order to complete it. So that's why if it's just the outside, it's still safe. Then let's go, Lin nodded. All right, let's go there. Lola was a bit dejected. Gu Shan and Lin both looked at her. Do you feel like there's something wrong with me? Lola asked. Gu Shan and Lin both nodded. Gu Shan thought for a bit, then said, if there's something troubling you, how about I go by myself? You can return to the Bramble Bird Kingdom first. I'll meet up with you after I'm done. Lola hurriedly waved her hand dismissively. No, there's nothing troubling me at all. I'm just a bit. She found it a bit hard to explain. Gu Shan felt a bit worried. Did Lola run into something strange and eerie at that place? Or is there some kind of terrifying monster lurking there? Gu Shan became serious and spoke in a low voice. Lola, no matter what it is, you have to tell me. I can't just ignore those dangers, Lola replied. No, Gu Shan, it's not as serious as you think. It's just that there will be problems if I go. Gu Shan and Lin exchanged glances. Problems? Why do you say that? Gu Shan asked. Lola replied. You know, whenever I try to grab something from the void of space, I'll use up a lot of energy, so I'll get hungry very quickly. Gu Shan nodded. You've already told me about this a long time ago, wandering treasure collection. This ability always makes me hungry, and whenever I get close to the broken abyss of broken worlds, I can't help but want to grab treasures. Gu Shan was confused. Why is that? Lola had a look of longing on her face and replied, Gu Shan, do you know? The things are all true treasures. Even with my eyesight, I want to obtain them. Gu Shan glanced at the Bramblebird armor she was wearing. This armor also came from there, and from the broken abyss. Lola continued, whenever I go there, I can't help but grab things. All of them are truly great treasures. But this way, I'll be in a state of extreme hunger, so I'll have to eat as much as I can to replenish my energy, which will result in a terrifying consequence. What consequence? Gu Shan calmly asked. Lola covered her face with both hands and shouted in pain. I'll become fat. Gu Shan, Lin, Lola, you should return to the Bramblebird Kingdom first, Gu Shan said. No way. I'm coming with you. I'll definitely control my hands this time. Lola insisted. Then I hope you can learn self-control. Willpower is also an important part of a person's cultivation. It determines how far you can go on the path of becoming stronger, Gu Qingshan said with a serious expression. What if I can't control myself, and I just want to grab things? Lola worriedly said. If you really can't, I'll help you regain your calm, Gu Qingshan immediately said. Lin also smiled. And me, as long as I'm here, you won't be able to grab anything freely. Then that's good, with Big Bro and Big Sis helping me. I should be able to control myself, Lola patted her chest and assured her. A few moments later, the Bramble Bird ship slightly adjusted its direction and headed into the boundless space vortex. A few days later, the Bramble Bird ship had reached its destination. This place was at the edge of the broken abyss of broken worlds. The three of them stood on the deck of the ship and looked down. Countless ruins, strange corpses, various dangerous powers, as well as incomprehensible ruins of civilizations, all of which formed a gigantic, boundless whirlpool. They couldn't see what was at the bottom of the whirlpool or where it led to. The Bramble Bird ship lightly hovered just outside of the giant whirlpool, looking like a small seabird flying above the vast ocean. So this is the most dangerous place within the 900 million world layers, Gu Qingshan sighed. Lin said nothing. Lola, on the other hand, was already hesitant. She anxiously paced back and forth on the deck of the ship, muttering, I sense an incredible treasure just drifting close to the whirlpool below us. What do I do? What do I do? Do I grab it or not? What level of treasure is it exactly? Lin asked. Lola pointed at the light around Gu Qingshan's body and said, It's only a bit weaker than this age of old god's armor. No, I can't hold it in anymore. I can't let such a great treasure slip away. Big Bro, Big Sis, what do you think? Should I grab it or not? Lin shrugged and looked at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan sighed. Then grab it. Just this once. After that, no matter what happens, don't do anything. Got it? Lola couldn't wait to grab something from the void of space. She took out a black, shoulder-mounted cannon. What a great technological weapon. Lola excitedly stroked the cannon, then gave it to Gu Qingshan like she was presenting a treasure. Look, this thing can be installed on the Bramble Bird ship. It'll be a great deterrent. Gu Qingshan received it and checked. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God, UI, Frowny Face Cannon Brothers Favor, single-use combat weapon. A single-use cannon of destruction, originating from a technologically advanced parallel world, the ultimate single-use firepower weapon. Activation method, brainwave binding, casting method, mind activation. Description, a single shot is enough to destroy an entire world. For this reason, it is affectionately known as Cannon Brother. Gu Qingshan gave it to Lin and sighed. This thing is truly powerful. I didn't make a mistake. With this, it will be able to play a decisive role in an intense battle. Even the Soul Shrieker's avatar wouldn't be able to do much against this cannon. Lin was also a knowledgeable person, so she couldn't help but praise it. Very well, from now on, don't touch anything again, Gu Qingshan told her. Lin also followed up, we'll keep an eye on you. Just like Gu Qingshan said, willpower is also an important factor in the process of cultivation. Lola sincerely said, Don't worry, Big Bro, Big Sis, it definitely won't touch anything again. The two of them nodded in satisfaction. Then, I'll go. Gu Qingshan looked towards the vortex and began to determine the direction. Suddenly, Lola pulled his sleeve. What is it? Gu Qingshan turned around and asked, only to see Lola opening her eyes wide, her expression as if she was about to cry. What exactly is it? Gu Qingshan crouched down and asked worriedly. Gu Qingshan, I can't take it anymore. I found an even more powerful treasure. Lola couldn't help but scream. Gu Qingshan facepalmed. At this point, he suddenly had a thought. The last time Lola came here, she touched quite a few good things and ended up getting fat. And it was the same this time. Perhaps this place was where the remains of countless parallel worlds were piled up, which is why Lola was able to sense good things so frequently. Unlike the parallel worlds in the eternal abyss, the worlds here had all been destroyed, so they no longer posed any threat to reality. The only thing that was dangerous was entering. Lola was now standing right outside the treasure vault of all the destroyed parallel worlds. I suggest that you stop touching them, because compared to treasures, your willpower is more important, and you'll get fat. Gu Shan said with a serious expression. Lola grabbed his hand and couldn't help but say, Gu Shan, do you know? There's something even more powerful than the sovereign armor approaching us from the vortex below. I can sense it. Gu Shan was surprised. Even more powerful than the Bramblebird's sovereign armor? He asked. That's right. It seems to be an indestructible entity that completely surpasses all defensive armors in the 900 million world layers. Lola's face was a bit flushed from excitement. The Bramblebird sovereign armor had once saved Gu Shan's life, so it was a peerless piece of armor. If a piece of armor that was even more powerful than it appeared, that would be Gu Shan only hesitated for a single second. Touch it. He rolled up his sleeves. You're letting her touch it, but why did you roll up your sleeves? Lin couldn't help but ask. Gu Shan tapped his inventory bag, took out a lot of ingredients, and solemnly said, I'm here to make a diet meal for Lola. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.